Chapter 14:23. The void was like a prison, and the world was in turmoil. It was as if even the stars had been annihilated. As Yi Chen activated the supreme killing formation, the entire Nine Dragons Bay turned into a terrifying world of death. Invisible killing intent covered the sky and earth. It surged and surged, surging and surging, as if it wanted to kill all living beings. At that moment, everyone's gazes were fixed on the dozens of figures that suddenly descended from the sky. They suddenly appeared like ghosts and stood quietly in the sky behind Yi Chen. They did not move at all. However, the terrifying murderous aura emitted from their bodies seemed to be tangible. It was terrifying, and it froze the air in this area. In an instant, countless people sucked in a breath of cold air. Who are they? So powerful. The feeling that these people give me is not weaker than the powerhouses of the 8 foreign immortal sections. There are even a few of them who are comparable to Divine Son of Blood Sun and the rest. They could feel that the aura faintly emitted from the dozens of people almost suffocated them. The eyes of the Divine Prince of Blood Sun and the others were filled with extreme fear as they looked at the group of people that were standing still. 38 Soul Formation Cultivators. Divine Son of Blood Sun's gaze was as gloomy as water. He gritted his teeth and said word by word, 38 Soul Formation Cultivators. Among them, 24 are beginner-stage soul formation cultivators, 10 are intermediate-stage soul formation cultivators, and 4 are advanced-stage soul formation cultivators. As soon as he finished speaking, the originally deathly silent world first fell into a short period of silence, and then it was suddenly broken by waves of uproar that were comparable to tempestuous waves. 38 soul formation cultivators. Countless people felt their scalps go numb from the shock of this number. What shocked them the most was that these people who suddenly appeared were not affected by the supreme killing formation. That could only mean that they were Yi Chen's people. Many people were shocked as soon as that thought appeared. Yi Chen actually had such a mysterious power? In an instant, the media that was paying attention to the various forces were shocked. Then, they quickly spread the news. Breaking news, shocking news. Mad Southern Yi is not alone. There are 38 soul formation cultivators behind him. Heavens! 38 soul formation stage cultivators. Not even one of the 8 outer regions' celestial sects could gather such a number. Could this be a divine weapon from the heavens? News about the occupation of 9 Dragons Bay spread throughout China and even the entire world in an instant. It was as if thunder had struck the world, shaking the heavens and the earth. Within a mysterious mountain valley that was less than 1,000 kilometers away from Linqing, Qin Shaotian, Taoist Dark North, and the others stared in shock at the dozens of people who had suddenly appeared on the screen. They were speechless for a long time. A few seconds later, the silence in the valley was suddenly broken by a loud laugh. A peerless killing formation and 38 soul formation cultivators. Mad Southern Yi, you've really surprised us. Brother Yi is too good at hiding. Qin Shaotian and the others heaved a heavy sigh of relief. Then, they shook their heads, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. However, their brows were filled with extreme excitement. With the peerless killing formation and the 38 soul formation stage cultivators, it meant that the balance of this earth-shattering battle had begun to tilt. Pay attention to the battle at all times. Once Mad Southern Yi can't handle it, activate the God shooting cannon immediately. At the same time, order the powerhouses of China to move out. This battle is not only about Mad Southern Yi, but also about China. Taoist Dark North waved his hand. Within 9 Dragons Bay, the world was silent. The Patriarch of Hell sneered as he looked at the extremely gloomy Blood Sun God and the rest. How is it? How's the method we've prepared for you? Hearing that, the faces of the Blood Sun God and the rest twitched slightly, and they were extremely ugly. The 8 outer regions' celestial sects had joined forces, and almost all of their powerhouses had been mobilized. They thought that killing a native of Earth would be a simple matter. Who would have thought that Yi Chen was even more cunning than them? Not only did he set up a peerless killing formation to lure them into a trap, he even exposed nearly 40 soul formation stage powerhouses. In an instant, the alliance formed by the 8 outer regions' celestial sects collapsed without a fight. People's hearts wavered as they calculated the gains and losses. After all, Yi Chen had the killing formation and over 30 soul formation stage powerhouses. Even if they could kill Yi Chen, they would have to pay a huge price. Mad Southern Yi, I admit that I've underestimated you. An early-stage soul formation stage cultivator from the immortal sex broke out of the formation with a sneer. Do you think you can trap us with this formation of yours? Is that so? Yi Chen seemed to smile mockingly. However, in the next moment, a red bolt of lightning as thick as a baby's arm suddenly descended from the sky. The person screamed, and his body was instantly charred. White smoke rose from his body, and his entire body was bathed in lightning. Then, the Son of God fell straight to the ground. In an instant, an early-stage soul formation stage cultivator died. The world suddenly fell silent. Countless people widened their eyes as they watched this scene in horror. They revealed expressions as if they had seen a ghost. The powerhouses from the immortal sex, including the Blood Sun Divine Sun and the rest, could not help but inhale sharply. Then they rejoiced. If they had gone out earlier, they would have become corpses by now. At this moment, a black figure suddenly appeared at the place where the man had fallen. The black figure reached out and took a storage ring. A middle-grade spirit treasure storage ring. Not bad, not bad. As the Patriarch of Hell spoke, he sent his divine consciousness into the storage ring. Then, he curled his lips. 300,000 low-grade spirit stones, 50,000 middle-grade spirit stones, and 8,000 high-grade spirit stones. So it's a poor bastard. Everyone stared at this scene with their mouths agape. The Blood Sun Divine Sun and the rest were so angry that their faces turned ashen. King killed him, and you still think he's poor? Yi Chen stood with his hands behind his back. He looked at everything coldly as an extremely cold smirk appeared at the corner of his lips. What? Are you scared out of your wits? On the other hand, the Patriarch of Hell looked at the Blood Sun Divine Sun and the rest and laughed. Weren't you guys quite capable earlier? A middle-stage soul formation stage black-robed old man flew into a rage. How dare a mere early-stage soul formation stage junior be so arrogant? I can kill you right now. Boom! He attacked instantly. His body moved like lightning as he charged at Yi Chen and the Patriarch of Hell with a terrifying aura. Clearly, he thought that Yi Chen was the core of the formation. As long as he killed them, the killing formation would collapse on its own. The Patriarch of Hell shouted, "Fellow Yi, kill this old dog. How dare he call me a junior? He's really infuriating me." Yi Chen formed a hand seal. Boom. In the next instant, densely packed torrential sword aura swept out from the void, spanning 1,000 feet and directly enveloping the black-clothed old man. End of this chapter. Chapter 1425. The old man in black screamed. His entire body was shattered by the endless sword chi on the spot, turning into a bloody mist that filled the sky. Another person died. No matter how calm someone was, they couldn't help but want to retreat after seeing a soul formation mid-stage cultivator being killed by a killing formation. Whoosh! Shi Qianhan's eyes turned red when he saw the storage bag that had fallen. He ran over without saying a word. This was a mid-stage soul formation cultivator. The previous mid-stage soul formation cultivator had hundreds of thousands of spirit stones, let alone this one. However, the Patriarch of Hell was even faster than him. He snatched it first and smacked his lips. 500,000 low-grade spirit stones, 110,000 mid-grade spirit stones, and 20,000 high-grade spirit stones. Not bad, not bad. This one is a little richer than that poor bastard from before. Like a nouveau riche, he wore the storage ring on his hand and casually hung the storage bag on his waist. Patriarch, you're not being righteous enough. Shi Qianhan's expression turned ugly. There are so many storage rings and storage bags. You should at least give me one or two. Go away. Patriarch Yellow Spring glared at him, then grinned and said, Look, how many storage rings are there with so many heads? If you want, you can kill one of them yourself. You make it sound like you killed those two people just now, Shi Qianhan muttered to himself. Everyone's faces twitched. Insult, extreme insult. These two fellows actually started to share the loot in front of them. How could they bully them like that? Mad Southern Yi, you're powerful. There's still a long way to go. We won't let you off. 5 of the Soul Formation initial stage cultivators glanced at one another before unleashing their cultivation bases in unison to attack the space in an attempt to break through the spell formation and escape. Why wait until the future? Yi Chen's eyes turned cold as he said with killing intent, I think there's no time like the present. I'll fulfill your wish today. Boom! Suddenly, thunder rumbled in the sky and a terrifying killing intent descended. The combined attack of the 5 people was instantly broken. At the same time, several dozen bolts of red lightning suddenly descended from the sky. These people immediately began to smoke and their bodies were charred black. The terrifying lightning completely shattered their skulls and souls. Another 5 people had died. At this moment, everyone's eyes glazed over. What kind of formation is this? How could it be so terrifying? At that moment, even the divine Prince of Blood Sun, who thought he was invincible, had a change of expression. The others were even frightened. They were originally here to kill Yi Chen, but now they were trapped in this terrifying killing formation like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Fellow Yi, what are you still standing there for? Ancestral Patriarch Hell seemed to have found a great money-making plan. He stared at Blood Sun Divine Sun and the others with his green eyes. Hurry up and kill them. They are all richer than you and me. At this moment there were more than 10 storage bags hanging on his waist, and all 10 of his fingers were filled with storage rings. The shiny jewels made Shi Qianhan and the rest drool. If Yi Chen had not spoken, they would have charged out long ago. Yi Chen looked at Blood Sun Divine Sun and the rest coldly and smirked. Everyone, I'll send you on your way now. At this point, he slowly raised his arm. Following his movement, Shi Qianhan and the rest could not help but be shocked. Monstrous killing intent surged out like an undercurrent. The battle has begun. At that moment, everyone's breathing quickened. Subsequently, they saw Yi Chen's arm swing down heavily as he spat out a cold word. Kill. The moment the word was uttered, it was like a demonic sound of death that surged through the world. Brothers, follow me and kill. It's time to snatch heads, storage bags, and storage rings. Ancestral Patriarch Hell roared and took the lead to charge at Blood Sun Divine Sun and the rest. It would have been better if he had not spoken. As soon as he spoke, Shi Qianhan and the rest's eyes turned completely red. Nearly 100 God Transformation stage cultivators. That meant that there were at least 100 storage rings. In an instant, Shi Qianhan, Hall Master Beiyun, Patriarch Qingling, and the rest charged at Blood Sun Divine Sun and the rest like madmen. This scene left the spectators dumbfounded. Do you have to be so crazy? There are only 40 of you, and there are more than 90 people from the 8 foreign immortal sects. Be *starred. Blood Sun Divine Sun's killing intent surged, and a chill swept through heaven and earth. How dare you look down on us like this? If I don't kill all of you today, how can I, Blood Sun Divine Sun, face anyone on Ancestral Planet? Everyone, if you still have any tricks up your sleeves, just wait for your deaths. He roared into the sky, and the surging blood river on his body became even more vast. It was as if he was carrying a magnificent river on his back. Attack! Suddenly, the remaining 90-odd God Transformation stage cultivators' faces turned ashen. They shattered the void and fought to attack. Kill! Shi Qianhan and the rest charged forward fearlessly. Buzz, at that moment, A shocking sword gleam pierced through the sky and killed an early-stage transformation stage powerhouse from one of the 8 immortal sections. Then, under everyone's terrified gazes, they saw a white-clothed young man soar into the sky. His elegance shook the surroundings. The white-clothed young man's clothes fluttered in the wind as he sized up everyone with his indifferent eyes. "Yi Wushuang from China, the foreign dog, come and accept your death. Junior, don't be so arrogant. Let me teach you a lesson." A mid-stage god transformation stage powerhouse from the foreign immortal sex was furious. With a long roar, his body flashed, and he immediately turned into a terrifying bolt of lightning. Rumble! As soon as the battle began, heaven and earth shook and the void shook. In just a few breaths of time, screams could be heard as a bloody mist appeared in the air. Under everyone's gaze, the mid-stage transformation stage powerhouse from before screamed and fell to the ground. At the same time, his body was torn into pieces and turned into dust. A sword gleam erupted and pierced through the sky. Yi Wushuang's white clothes fluttered as he looked down at everything. Trash. Kill. Upon seeing this, some of the remaining soul formation stage cultivators from the older generation of China were extremely excited. That person took a step forward and joined the battle as well. His voice shook heaven and earth. "Today, we'll kill all these bastards from the outer realm and return China to eternal peace." Rumble! In an instant, the entire 9 Dragons Bay turned into a battlefield of carnage. From time to time, terrifying auras surged through the world and screams shook the surroundings. This was a racial feud that could not be resolved. It was either death or life. The outside world was dead silent. Those with low cultivation bases were even trembling. A group battle between god transformation stage powerhouses was simply too terrifying. The blood sun divine sun turned into a blood river and charged at Yi Chen like a star descending. He was filled with killing intent. "Mad Southern Yi, your opponent is me. Everyone says that you were once the Earth's #1. I want to see what tricks you have." End of this chapter. Chapter 1426. The blood sun divine sun had attacked. Everyone's hearts tensed up when they saw that. The so-called god suns were publicly acknowledged geniuses in every planet. They were said to have the ability to shake the stars in the sky and illuminate the heavens. Meanwhile, Yi Chen was the Earth #1. It would not be an exaggeration to describe him as the god son of Earth. He also had the potential to illuminate the heavens. Who would win in the battle between the 2 god sons today? The blood sun divine sun's eyes were bloodshot. He grabbed the air with his right hand and turned the blood-colored river into a blood-colored spear. It was extremely sharp and emitted a terrifying bloody glow. "Yi, you'll definitely die today." As soon as he said that, he moved immediately. He turned into a blood-colored arc and charged at Yi Chen. Before he arrived, the blood-colored spear turned into a blood-colored dragon that charged at Yi Chen. As expected of a god son. "He's so powerful." Countless people who were paying attention to this scene instantly turned pale. The powerhouses of the older generation of China could not help but look at Yi Chen worriedly. Is Mr. Yi his match? Trash, get lost. Yi Chen's expression remained the same. He clenched his fists lightly and threw a punch. It tore the void apart and the sky churned as if a true dragon was roaring. The fist's shadow rose into the sky and seemed to have transformed into a dazzling sun. It cut through heaven and earth, and everyone could only see that punch. Rumble! At that moment, the blood-colored spear in the blood sun divine sun's hand shook violently. Then, countless cracks of various sizes appeared on it. From afar, it looked like a spider web. Gotcha! Subsequently, the blood-colored spear collapsed. The blood sun divine sun stumbled back. His face was filled with shock. One should know that his spear was a divine spiritual treasure. Even a cultivator at the peak of the soul formation stage didn't have one. Before he could react, he saw Yi Chen take a step forward. He seemed to have merged with heaven and earth. He could not catch any traces of his movement. Die. In an instant, Yi Chen's cold voice rang in his ears. Oh no. It was also at that moment that the blood sun divine sun's expression changed drastically, and all the hair on his body stood on end. Great blood river magic! He let out a furious roar. He could not care less about retreating as he hurriedly performed the ethereal palace's secret technique and formed a raging river of blood around him. Yi Chen swung his fist and threw a punch. That punch directly shattered the vast blood river formed by the blood sun divine prince. The fist shadow didn't lose its momentum and landed heavily on the blood sun divine prince. The divine prince of blood sun cried out in pain. He felt half of his body collapse, and even his entire soul was smashed to pieces. Divine Sun? Merely an ant to this Yi. At that moment Yi Chen stood proudly in the air. His white hair fluttered in the wind, and his eyes were dazzling. He was like an ancient god that had returned to the mortal world. The world suddenly fell into a deathly silence. He was dead. The blood sun divine sun was killed by Yi Chen with a single punch. That was an existence with the potential to illuminate the heavens. How is this possible? Divine Prince Blood Sun was killed by him? Damn it, didn't they say that Yi didn't have much time left? How can he have such terrifying battle prowess? Countless people were shocked, and the remaining powerhouses from the 8 immortal sects could not believe it. A late-stage god transformation stage old man who was close to the blood sun divine sun said angrily, Mad Southern Yi, how dare you kill the blood sun divine sun? Aren't you afraid that the powerhouses from Ethereal Star will come and destroy China? It's not just them. All of you will die today. Yi Chen took a step forward with a cold expression. If people respect me, I'll respect them tenfold. You guys want to kill me, but you can't. So, I can only send you guys on your way. He strode toward the late-stage god transformation stage powerhouse. With every step he took, his killing intent grew. He used his finger as a blade, and a shocking sword gleamed soared into the sky. It slashed forward like a rainbow piercing through the sun. No. The man roared and tried to escape. However, he had nowhere to run in the killing formation. In the end, his body was destroyed by the sword, and only his primordial spirit was terrified. Mad Southern Yi, it's a misunderstanding. This is a misunderstanding. A mid-stage god transformation stage powerhouse inhaled sharply and tried to ease the tension. Die! Yi Chen slashed and destroyed the other party. Mad Southern Yi, are you crazy? A mid-stage god transformation stage powerhouse was terrified. Aren't you afraid of bringing disaster to China by slaughtering us foreign powerhouses? Why should I, Mad Southern Yi, be afraid of anyone in China? Yi Chen scoffed and waved his sword again. With a thud, he severed the other party's head and destroyed the other party's Naiwan palace. Everyone, fight him to the death. Someone sacrificed his lifespan crazily in an attempt to fight with his life. Yi Chen controlled the peerless killing formation and charged into the crowd. He was like a tiger entering a flock of sheep. He killed everywhere and reaped lives. One of them was immediately cut into countless pieces by the terrifying sword intent that descended from the killing formation. Even his primordial spirit was reduced to dust. Another person tried to escape, but he was turned into charcoal by the red lightning that descended from the killing formation. His soul was destroyed. No, you can't kill me. I'm the Myriad Demon King's son. The mid-stage god transformation stage powerhouse roared. I'll kill you even if you're the son of God. Yi Chen erased his life without hesitation. An early-stage god transformation stage powerhouse was completely scared out of his wit. He kowtowed like he was pounding garlic. Mad Southern Yi, I'm willing to submit. Please don't kill me. Sorry, I don't accept trash. Yi Chen's gaze was ruthless. He killed him on the spot with a punch, destroying his soul. It was as if he had entered an uninhabited land. Blood filled the air, and it seemed to have turned into purgatory on earth. People kept dying. This is too terrifying. How is this a dying person? He's clearly a devil from hell. Devil, devil. The various forces that were watching the battle from the outside world felt their scalps go numb from fear. Even though they were outside the battle, their bodies were trembling. Even Shi Qianhan and the rest were no exception. Before this, who would have thought that Yi Chen would be so terrifying? In less than an hour, the entire Nine Dragons Bay was completely shrouded in blood mist. The broken corpses of the powerhouses from the foreign immortal sects were everywhere. With the death of the last late-stage God Transformation Stage powerhouse, the hundreds of God Transformation Stage powerhouses from the 8 foreign immortal sects were all killed without exception. Even the Blood Sun God's son was scared out of his wits. Yi Chen looked around like a supreme demon lord sweeping through the world. He said forcefully, "From today onwards, anyone who dares to look down on China will be killed no matter how far away I am." Rumble! When he said the last word, the entire world shook endlessly, as if there were hundreds of thunderbolts rumbling at the same time. Those who offend China will be killed no matter how far away they are. At that moment everyone fell silent. Only this shocking voice echoed crazily in their minds. End of this chapter. Chapter 14:27. Those who offend China will be killed no matter how far away they are. Rumble, a thunderous rumble resounded in the sky. The might seemed to have caused the entire world to violently tremble. Everyone stared blankly at this scene. At this moment, a gentle breeze blew over, instantly blowing the extremely dense stench of blood in all directions. It was this pungent stench of blood that caused everyone to gradually wake up from their daze. The empty world then became deathly silent. The surroundings were deathly silent. No one dared to take a deep breath at this moment. Countless gazes were fixed onto the empty space. The 8 foreign immortal sects were all destroyed, including the Blood Sun God's son. Over 100 soul formation stage powerhouses had all died at this moment. Not a single one was left. Even so, the Patriarch of Hell, Luo Tianya, and the rest were still frantically searching for the storage rings and storage bags that they had left behind. The Patriarch's movements were extremely fast. In the end, his entire body was covered in all sorts of storage bags. As for his fingers, they were covered by storage rings with passwords. TSK. Someone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air, causing a series of gasps. Everyone's gazes gathered on the thin figure standing proudly in the sky. Everyone's scalps went numb. It was too terrifying. Before this, who would have thought that the outcome would be like this? Most people thought that it would be like throwing an egg against a rock when facing the 100 soul formation stage powerhouses from the 8 immortal sects with Yi Chen's strength, let alone resist. However, all the powerhouses from the 8 immortal sects were annihilated. Even the Blood Sun God's son was dead. Someone looked at the figure in the sky, his lips trembling, as expected of the former Earth's number 1. He's too terrifying. Many of the powerhouses beside him nodded in agreement. Over 100 soul formation stage powerhouses were enough to destroy any country. If news of this got out, it would definitely cause an unprecedented upheaval. Shaochen 1. Yi Hai and Wu Lan heaved a sigh of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. Then, unconcealable excitement surged on their faces. The others were even more ecstatic. Su Yuwei looked at Yi Chen in a daze. There seemed to be a storm in her beautiful eyes. Her face was a little pale as she mumbled to herself, "It seems like all of us have underestimated him. How is this possible?" Fang Mingda and his grandson, who were also watching this scene, could not believe their eyes. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. At that moment, everyone's eyes gathered on Yi Chen. There was shock, fear, and even more disbelief in their eyes. In a valley less than 1,000 miles away from Nine Dragons Bay, Taoist Dark North laughed uproariously. "Ha ha ha, well done, well done." As expected of the former number 1 cultivator on Earth. Now, let's see if the remaining immortal sects of the outer realms will still dare to act so arrogantly. Qin Shaotian also smiled lightly. He looked at Yi Chen in the surveillance video and felt extremely emotional. Brother Yi, well done. No one could understand his feelings better than him. The enemy from the outer realm had invaded and his sister had died. While he was furious, he was also filled with hatred for the enemy from the outer realm. However, he was deeply aware of the powerful foundation of the immortal sects of the outer realm. Because of this, he had been indignant, roared, and blamed himself. Even though he had obtained a fortuitous encounter in Yin Su and his strength had undergone a tremendous change, he still felt that he was too insignificant. However, Yi Chen had killed hundreds of powerhouses from the outer realm. Not only did he take revenge for her, but it also gave hope to the Chinese cultivators and countless cultivators on Earth. They saw that the so-called natives of Earth could also kill powerhouses from the outer realm. Thinking to this point, he could not help but let out a heavy breath. He clenched his fists and said, "The other immortal sects of the outer realm will definitely be shocked." Whoosh! As the major radio stations and media broadcasted the battle scene at Nine Dragons Bay, the entire China was in an uproar. Great, well done. Oh my God, he's too powerful. Mr. Yi is invincible. Many of the older generation of Chinese cultivators were so excited that they cried. They had lived in the shadow of the immortal sects of the outer realm for too long. He's actually that powerful? On the other hand, many of the younger generation were completely dumbfounded. Before this, although most of them had heard of Yi Chen's legendary history, they did not think much of it. After all, to them, Yi Chen was only the number one person on Earth 17 years ago. After the great enemy from the outer realm arrived on Earth, Earth underwent a tremendous change. Moreover, they felt that it might be an exaggeration. However, the scene before them made them have no choice but to believe it. How was this a legend? He was clearly a heaven-defying fiend. In a high school in Jinling City, the huge classroom was filled with students. However, at that moment the classroom was dead silent. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the white-haired young man in the video. Yi Qi, who was sitting in the last row, clenched his fists and almost roared, "Uncle is invincible." The rest fell silent for a few seconds. Then, someone looked at the former and asked weakly, "Trash King, oh no, Yi Qi, brother Qi, do you know Mad Southern Yi?" Whoosh! In an instant, all the gazes in the classroom landed on Yi Qi. Meeting everyone's gazes, Yi Qi swayed at first. Then, he could not help but lower his head and say rather embarrassedly, "I don't know him. We've only met once before." "Tsk, keep bragging." The rest rolled their eyes at him. After all, they had witnessed how terrifying Yi Chen was with their own eyes. He was an existence that could kill hundreds of God transformation stage powerhouses. How could a child from a poor family like Yi Qi be qualified to know him? Just when everyone looked at Yi Chen in the sky and thought that the battle had officially ended, a bolt of lightning suddenly exploded in the air. As soon as the figure appeared, it carried a powerful, terrifying, and transcendent aura. It was as if a god was below it. It clenched its fist and slapped Yi Chen's head. "What's going on? What happened?" Some people's expressions changed drastically, while some could not even react in time. It was also at that moment that the patriarch of Yellow Springs' expression changed slightly. His chilling gaze shot straight into the void. Only Yi Chen's expression remained the same. He looked around and smiled lightly. He seemed to be mocking. "Old dog that's been hiding in the dark, you finally can't help but attack?" A surprised voice came from the air. "You're only at the intermediate stage of God transformation, but your divine consciousness is quite powerful. You can actually vent your anger on me in advance. P.S. There's only one chapter today. I just got home after driving for almost 10 hours. I'm so tired that I'm about to fall apart. I didn't have time to update too much. Please forgive me." End of this chapter. Chapter 1428. Boom. The terrifying pressure in the air charged at Yi Chen's head. Rumble, dazzling lightning shot over and struck Yi Chen's chest heavily. The shocking energy that exploded from it destroyed a radius of 3,000 meters. It enveloped Yi Chen completely. Xiaochen. Mr. Yi. Seeing this scene, the people below immediately cried out in surprise. Their expressions were incomparably nervous, and the people who were watching this scene through the internet also stood up in shock with their expressions changing drastically. Earlier, everyone was still immersed in the shock of Yi Chen killing the powerhouses from the 8 foreign immortal sections. Who would have thought that such a drastic change would happen in the next moment? Damn it, someone actually launched a sneak attack on Mad Southern Yi? Shameless, he's extremely shameless. Could it be that the peerless legend of China is going to die today? In an instant, all sorts of emotions exploded in the hearts of countless people. The attack just now was too terrifying and shocking. Just when everyone was in despair, they saw the lightning that enveloped Yi Chen suddenly dissipate. Subsequently, Yi Chen's figure was revealed. He stood proudly in the air with his white hair fluttering in the wind. There were no substantial injuries on his body at all. He appeared before everyone as if he was taking a stroll in the park. Great, that's great. Mad Southern Yi isn't dead. How is this possible? Unbelievable, simply unbelievable. Before the crowd could think too much about it, the air shook and a majestic silhouette suddenly appeared. Along with his appearance, the entire world began to tremble, as if it was unable to endure the pressure he brought forth. That figure was extremely dazzling, like a golden sun burning. There were raging flames burning outside his body, making people not dare to look him in the eye. As the dazzling divine flames dissipated, the figure finally revealed the face of an old man in a scarlet-red robe. Although the old man no longer had any aura to speak of, it made everyone's breathing quicken. This person is too terrifying. I'm afraid he's in existence at stage soul formation. A powerhouse hiding in the dark stared at the old man, and they all secretly sucked in a breath of cold air. You didn't die from my lightning strike. The old man seemed to be sizing Yi Chen up in surprise. He said calmly, I have to say that you're the number one in the cultivation world of the celestial burial planet. No wonder you killed the blood sun god. At this point, his eyes flashed with brilliance. If you're given some time, you might be able to activate the heavenly star chart and illuminate the heavens. The Patriarch of Hell squinted at him as killing intent surged in his eyes. Old dog who ambushed me from behind, tell me your name. Yi Wuxuang did not move at all as he looked at him quietly. The sword intent in his body began to rise like a roaring river. I am the leader of Li Yun's sect. You can call me Ancestor Li Yun. The old man glanced at him and focused his gaze on Yi Chen, Yi Wuxuang, and the other two. He said, the three of you have pretty good aptitude. If you can kneel down and swear your primordial spirit to be loyal to me, I can spare your lives and take you away from this abandoned planet. Before Yi Chen could speak, the Patriarch of Hell sneered, You're just at stage soul formation. What right do you have to make us kneel to you? The Patriarch of Hell snorted coldly. Invisible killing intent swept out in all directions, causing the entire 9 Dragons Bay to shake. Blurred. Many of the powerhouses present spat blood one after another. Then, they activated their true origin energy with all their might to resist the killing intent. They felt like their organs were being torn apart, and their souls were trembling. Back off. Facing the killing intent, Yi Chen took a step forward and stood before the Patriarch of Hell and the Patriarch of Hell. Then, he waved his sleeve and blocked the killing intent. Junior Yi. The Patriarch of Hell looked at Yi Chen with a burning gaze. Don't think that you're invincible just because you killed the people from the 8 immortal sections. You're just relying on that killing formation. As he spoke, he looked at the void and laughed mockingly. This killing formation's power has been greatly reduced after the previous consumption. It's useless against me. You can try. Yi Chen squinted at him. I'll give you a chance. Scram within 3 breaths of time. Otherwise, not only will you die, I'll even destroy the orthodoxy behind you. Ha ha! The Patriarch of Hell could not help but chuckle. What big words. You don't have much vital energy and blood in your body, and your essence energy is dried up. You're just holding on. If I were you, I would kneel down and kowtow to me in submission. Otherwise, I'll wash the entire Lin City with blood today. At the end of his sentence, the killing intent in his eyes skyrocketed. What a noisy old dog. Yi Chen took a step forward. A 300-meter saber gleam exploded from his hand and slashed at the former like a saber cutting water. All right, I'd like to see what else you have up your sleeves. The Patriarch of Hell laughed out of extreme anger. His feet did not touch the ground and his body swayed. Instantly, he floated over like a ghost. When he was less than 60 meters away from Yi Chen, his arm shook violently and his right hand clenched into a claw. Each of his jet-black fingers on his right hand suddenly grew to several tens of feet long. Following a burst of crackling sounds, they immediately contained streaks of purple thunderbolt. Boom! In an instant, an aura that made one's heart palpitate and feel powerless filled the sky, as if it could destroy everything. Too terrifying! At that moment, countless people's faces turned pale, and their minds swayed. The Patriarch of Hell's jet-black fingers were still expanding crazily. In just a few breaths of time, they covered the sky. Within a radius of 300 meters, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The Great Terror completely enveloped Yi Chen. The giant claw swept across the sky, covering the sky and earth. It was suffocating. Yi Chen's expression remained the same. Facing that, he did not retreat. Instead, he charged forward. He clenched his palm into a fist and threw an extremely violent and simple punch. His golden fist did not seem like it was made of flesh and blood. Instead, it was like a peerless divine weapon that had been tempered in a divine furnace. At that moment, everyone's hearts were in their throats. The media even forgot to adjust their cameras. The only thought that appeared in their minds was whether Yi Chen could withstand the Patriarch of Hell's terrifying attack. After all, the latter was a perfected soul formation stage expert. Boom! However, to everyone's surprise, Yi Chen's golden fist struck horizontally and shattered the giant claw that shrouded the sky. The golden fists might disappeared as it pressed forward. Crack! The Patriarch of Hell's palm exploded immediately. As blood splattered everywhere, he could not help but let out a muffled groan before his body was sent flying. If one took a closer look, they would realize that the Patriarch of Hell's entire right arm was severely distorted. It was hard to imagine that such an injury was caused by the purest physical strength. End of this chapter. Chapter 1429. He actually took it on? How is this possible? That's not all. In fact, the Patriarch of Li Yun was at a disadvantage in their first clash. What a terrifying body! Oh my God! Seeing this scene, the entire world suddenly fell into a brief dead silence. Then, it was broken by a raging uproar. This is unbelievable. Mad Southern Yi can still fight. Countless people sucked in a breath of cold air. One had to know that the Patriarch of Li Yun was a great perfection soul formation powerhouse. Even in the foreign immortal sects, there were very few of such existences. In the air, the Patriarch of Li Yun resisted the urge to shatter his palm. He looked at Yi Chen in shock and anger. He was not surprised that Yi Chen could take his attack. What surprised him was that Yi Chen broke through his attack with his body and even injured him. I told you to scram within 3 breaths, but you didn't cherish it. Since that's the case, you'll die today. Yi Chen stood in the wind as his clothes fluttered. His face was so cold that he looked like a killing machine without any emotions. Shameless boasting. The Patriarch of Li Yun snorted coldly. He quickly reconnected his right arm and opened his mouth to roar. Terrifying divine flames spewed out of his mouth like a volcano eruption. Endless flames covered the sky and earth as they enveloped Yi Chen. It was his Li Yun Sek's ultimate divinity, Great Sun Li Yun flames. As the terrifying divine flames covered the area, one could see that the water in the Nine Dragons Bay Lake on the ground instantly evaporated. Countless rocks evaporated at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was as if the air could not bear the weight. Junior Yi, it's not too late for you to submit now, the patriarch of Li Yun roared. He was extremely interested in the secret of Yi Chen's body. He even wanted to obtain it greedily. Noisy old dog, you'll die today. Yi Chen smirked coldly. Then, he moved his hands slowly. A terrifying aura also came from it. Under everyone's gazes, a small black mountain appeared out of thin air above his head. The small black mountain seemed to have crossed a galaxy and arrived from an unknown spacetime. It was vast and majestic, yet it didn't lose its grandeur, causing one's heart to tremble. The small black mountain expanded wildly like an ancient mountain above Yi Chen's head. Terrifying energy surged toward the Milky Way. It was the 5-elemental prison peak. Looking at that scene, countless people were dumbfounded. What is this? Even Ancestor Li Yun's expression changed. Suppress! Yi Chen shouted and raised his hands to the sky. The 5 elements' heavy prison peak that was like a great mountain suddenly struck out horizontally. It was like Mount Tai had left the world, crushing the sky. The pupils of everyone constricted violently, and all of them shuddered with fear. Boom! The 5-elemental heavy prison peak struck out horizontally and collided with the divine fire that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Suddenly, it was as if the sky and earth were turning upside down. The energy that caused people's hearts to palpitate violently swept out in all directions. If one were to look closely, one would notice that the divine flames that covered the sky were completely devoured by the 5-element prison peak after coming into contact with it. This was the uniqueness of the 5-element prison peak. The so-called 5 elements were metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Naturally, Ancestor Li Yun's divine fire was also within the scope of fire. In an instant, the divine fire that filled the sky disappeared. In the vast void, only the huge mountain swept across the sky, suppressing the Ancestor Li Yun. This is impossible, this is impossible! Ancestor Li Yun's expression finally changed. His eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. When he sensed the huge mountain coming at him, he did not dare to hesitate at all. His hands immediately tore through the air and pushed out. Terrifying true origin energy erupted, trying to repel the 5-element heavy prison peak. However, in the next moment, to his horror, he discovered that the true origin energy in his body had left his body uncontrollably and swept toward the 5-element heavy prison peak. What is this? Ancestor Li Yun's eyes widened as he roared madly, trying to stop all of this. At the same time, the 5-element heavy prison peak approached from afar and smashed toward him. Bang! Under such a heavy blow, Ancestor Li Yun immediately let out a blood-curdling scream. His chest collapsed on the spot, and his body was like a large drum that had been smashed all over. He was sent flying hundreds of meters away. Yi Chen took a step forward and strolled in the void. He moved like lightning and formed a formation with one step. It was as if the ground had shrunk to an inch. In an instant, he appeared before Ancestor Li Yun. Die! He carried the 5-element heavy prison peak on his back, like a giant carrying a mountain. His eyes erupted with divine light, and the huge mountain behind him pressed down. Although Ancestor Li Yun had been beaten beyond recognition by the previous attack, it was still not fatal. At the critical moment, he roared and a golden battle armor suddenly shot out from his body. The golden battle armor expanded in the wind, and its entire body shone brightly. It quickly wrapped around his body tightly. It was probably a protective spirit treasure. Boom! The 5-element heavy prison peak smashed heavily on the golden battle armor, causing an earth-shattering sound, causing the 5-element heavy prison peak to tremble like a great bell. Yi Chun pulled the five-element heavy prison peak back from afar. There was a hint of surprise in his eyes when he looked at the golden battle armor on Ancestor Li Yun's body again. What a powerful protective spirit treasure! It could actually resist an attack from his five-element heavy prison peak. Master, that golden battle armor is good stuff. At the same time, the Emperor Brush's voice rang in his head. I have a feeling that the battle robe should be a damaged 9th-grade celestial artifact. Although it is damaged, there is still a trace of celestial essence left. Master, the old cunning brush is right. The Night Demon armor's voice sounded. If we devour it, we can repair our Dao injuries and increase Master's battle prowess. I sensed it too. Yi Chen nodded secretly. He shouted softly and activated the five-element heavy prison peak to suppress it again. In the immortal world, immortal weapons were divided into 9 grades. Among them, Grade 9 was the lowest and Grade 1 was the highest. The Ancestor Li Yun's golden battle armor was probably obtained by chance, so it could only be used for defense. Although it was the lowest Grade 9 immortal weapon and it was severely damaged, the remaining immortal energy in it was able to recover the Dao injuries of the Night Demon armor and Emperor Brush. Clang! With a loud sound, the golden battle armor took another blow from the five-element heavy prison peak. However, the light on it dimmed slightly. At the same time, the Ancestor Li Yun's damaged body was also recovering rapidly, and his shriveled chest was rapidly swelling. Master, brute force won't do. We need to find the missing corner of this immortal weapon, Emperor Brush reminded. The Night Demon armor also said, the old cunning brush is right. This immortal weapon is severely damaged. It's impossible to protect that old thing from all angles. Master only needs to attack him from the missing corner, and he won't be able to hold on for long. Both of them were once immortal weapons, so they naturally knew immortal weapons very well. End of this chapter. Chapter 1430. You two are even more excited than I am. Yi Chen did not know whether to laugh or cry. His eyes flickered a few times. He could only change his strategy and quickly check the loopholes on the golden battle robe. At that moment, his gaze suddenly fixed on the Patriarch of Li Yun's neck. The damaged golden battle robe did not protect that crucial part. Boom! At the same time, the Patriarch of Li Yun, who had recovered quickly, fled without saying a word. Clearly, he was completely scared out of his wits by Yi Chen and did not dare to fight him head-on. Oh no, Master, this old thing is going to run. The Night Demon armor panicked and wished it could chase after him. Trying to escape? How can it be that easy? Yi Chen smirked coldly and put away the five-element heavy prison peak calmly. He said softly, sword rise. Boom. At that moment, the entire 9 dragons' base shook violently, as if an earth dragon was turning over. Then, shocking sword gleams shot out from all directions at the same time. The power seemed to have sliced heaven and earth apart. Eventually, it gathered into a golden sword in front of Yi Chen. From afar, it looked like the Milky Way had descended. It was so dazzling that one could not look at it directly. Everyone was dumbfounded. What's this? Even the Patriarch of Hell was stunned. Then, he inhaled sharply and said, the Major 5-element sword formation. This is the Major 5-element sword formation that fellow Yi prepared beforehand. They were not the only ones. Even the Patriarch of Li Yun, who was fleeing frantically, sensed the changes behind him. He was even more shocked. If he had known that Yi Chen was so terrifying, he would not have chosen to provoke Yi Chen even if he was beaten to death. Yi Chen held the golden sword in his hand and took a deep breath in. Then, he swung his sword and slashed. 800 autumns have passed since I attained the Tao. Today, I'll take your head with my flying sword. Rumble, in an instant, the world lost its color, and the sun and moon lost their light. Under everyone's gazes, a sword gleam that looked like a river of stars tore through heaven and earth. It seemed to have crossed time and space as it slashed at the space where the Patriarch of Li Yun was. I have a treasured armor to protect me. You can't kill me. Ancestor Li Yun didn't even turn his head as he continued to activate his true yuan, wanting to break the void and escape. However, when the sword light swept past his neck, his expression finally changed, and all the hair on his body stood on end. No! The peerless sword light tore the heavens and earth apart. It was like a dragon charging towards his neck, beheading him on the spot. With one strike, Ancestor Li Yun's head was separated from his body. At that moment, the heavens and the earth suddenly fell into a deathly silence. Everyone widened their eyes as they blankly watched this scene. Their gazes were filled with extreme shock and astonishment. Killing a perfected soul formation cultivator with one strike. How was this possible? At that moment, a purple ball of light shot out from the Li Yun ancestor's body, revealing his terrified expression. It was his primordial spirit. His primordial spirit turned around and looked at his rapidly falling body. He then looked at Yi Chen with extreme hatred and roared, "Mad Southern Yi, you destroyed my body. I won't rest until you're dead." With that, he was about to leave with the cloud. "That's right, I won't rest until I'm dead," Yi Chen mumbled. He moved and chased after him using shrinking distance. "After all, an existence like you is a hidden threat to me unless your soul is destroyed." Buzz. As the void trembled, Emperor Brush appeared in his hand. The dazzling golden tip of the brush cut through heaven and earth, dazzling. "Destroy." Yi Chen did not stop walking. He waved the Emperor Brush, and his brush moved like dragons and snakes in the air. Oh no! At that moment, the Patriarch of Li Yun's soul immediately felt an unprecedented killing intent. He immediately shouted in fear, "Stop, I'm willing, Bleck!" Before he could finish speaking, the word "destroy" appeared in the air and turned into terrifying, invisible killing intent that pierced through his soul and shattered it. The Patriarch of Li Yun's primordial spirit roared angrily. With unwillingness, it died completely, turning into countless pieces that scattered in the air. A perfected soul formation cultivator had died. At that moment, the expressions of everyone who saw this scene froze on their faces, and strands of hair-raising coldness surged up their spines. Putting aside the hundreds of soul formation powerhouses who had died in Yi Chen's hands earlier, even a terrifying existence like the Patriarch of Li Yun had died in Yi Chen's hands. How could everyone not be terrified by this? Who else dared to look down on Yi Chen? Looking down on China? Mad Southern Yi is invincible. Therefore, at that moment, the place immediately erupted with a sound that sounded like the roar of a mountain or a tsunami. Congratulations to Mad Southern Yi, congratulations to China. Many netizens who were watching this scene through the broadcast stood up subconsciously at that moment. Then, they bowed deeply to Yi Chen with surging emotions. Taoist Bayan's eyes were filled with tears as he bowed to Yi Chen. Congratulations to Mad Southern Yi, congratulations to China. Congratulations to Mad Southern Yi, congratulations to China. Qin Shaotian clenched his fists tightly, extremely excited. At the same time, the four heavenly kings at the four borders of China sent out official documents one after another. Congratulations to Mad Southern Yi, congratulations to China. Congratulations to Mad Southern Yi, congratulations to China. The million-strong army shouted. Nothing was more exciting than today's incident in the past 10 years since the foreign enemies descended on Earth. Yi Chen had slaughtered the powerhouses of the 8 foreign immortal sects and killed a perfected soul formation powerhouse. It was enough to shock the world and shock many foreign immortal sections. After this incident, who would dare to look down on China? How dare the foreign immortal sects treat China as their backyard? They could come and go as they pleased. Compared to China, the West was silent. At this moment, they finally realized that the number one person on Earth who had disappeared for 17 years had not declined. Instead, he was even more terrifying than before. The many foreign giants who were hiding in the void and paying attention to the battle, as well as the existences who had split their divine consciousness from Yin Su, were also shocked. It's unbelievable that the declining celestial burial planet could give birth to such a monstrous existence, that's right. Since this kid was able to kill the patriarch of Liyun, it means that his strength is on par with ours. Perhaps it's time for us to change our attitude toward China. If this kid can get rid of his depleted vital energy and blood, he might be able to obtain the title of Earth's Son of God. By then, the awakened celestial burial planet's luck will probably all be on him. What? He has a chance of becoming the new Earth's Son of God? You have to know that the previous Earth's Son of God swept through the all-heaven star region and suppressed us for countless years. Chapter 1431. With the death of the Patriarch of Liyun. From that moment onwards the entire Earth was shaken. Even the powerhouses who were hiding in the dark or in the Yin ruins were no exception. Everyone only felt a roar in their heads as they once again looked at the skinny figure standing in the void like a god. From now on, who can stop his ferocious might? This thought appeared in everyone's minds at almost the same time. He had slaughtered over 100 god transformation stage powerhouses from the 8 great immortal sects in the outer realm, and he had even killed the Patriarch of Liyun, a perfected god transformation stage powerhouse. Such a battle record had never been seen on Earth in the past 17 years. In the air, Yi Chen's face turned paler as if he could fall at any time. The Patriarch of Hell saw through his current situation at a glance. He appeared next to Yi Chen with a flash. Yi Wuxuang landed next to Yi Chen one after another. His white clothes fluttered and his expression was cold. He guarded the Patriarch of Hell on his left and right while looking around vigilantly. Yi Chen rejected their support and forced himself to stand. He looked at the entire world coldly and swept his cold gaze across countless faces. A few seconds later, an indifferent voice came out of his mouth. From today onwards, all foreign sects in China must register with the Foreign Territory Judicial Department within 3 days. If anyone doesn't come, the sect will be destroyed. Rumble. His voice was neither loud nor soft, but it was like thunder from the 9 heavens, shaking the surroundings and spreading thousands of kilometers away. It was like the roar of a god. As soon as he said that, everyone was stunned at first. Then, they could not help but suck in a breath of cold air and look at him in shock. Yi Chen's words were too overbearing and crazy. One had to know that ever since the foreign immortal sects descended on Earth 12 years ago, they had been unrestrained and lawless. However, Yi Chen wanted all the foreign sects in China to register with the Foreign Adjudication Department. What was the difference between that and a reorganization? With the temper of the foreign immortal sects, how could they agree? However, countless cultivators of the older generation in China were so excited that they almost cheered when they heard the news. Mad Southern Yi wanted to reorganize the foreign immortal sects in China. This was a great thing for China. It meant that the foreign immortal sects had restrictions and could no longer be as fearless as before. Humph! As soon as Yi Chen was done speaking, a cold snort suddenly sounded in the air. Mad Southern Yi, we don't care if you slaughter the 8 great immortal sections. We don't care if you kill fellow Liyun. But aren't you a little too arrogant? You actually want to suppress the remaining outer realm immortal sects? To put it bluntly, do you really think that you can fight against the entire extraterrestrial civilization by yourself? Well said. Another cold voice was heard. Mad Southern Yi, no matter how monstrous you are, you're just a native of Earth. How dare you look down on our extraterrestrial civilization? The voice in the air exploded in everyone's minds. However, only the voice could be heard, but no one could be seen. Yi Chen looked at the air. Just when he was about to speak, he heard a loud laugh coming from afar. Who said that Mad Southern Yi is alone? Under everyone's gazes, the space suddenly distorted a few times. Then, an old Taoist priest in green walked over. The old Taoist priest in green held a horsetail whisk and landed next to Yi Chen. It was Taoist Baiyin. With Taoist Baiyan's appearance, the entire world fell silent again. After all, Daoist Beiyan was one of the few mid-stage soul formation powerhouses in China. The voice from before sounded again, and it seemed to be displeased. "Fellow Daoist Beiyan, are you going to help Mad Southern Yi? Old thing hiding in the dark." Daoist Beiyan smirked coldly. "I'm here to tell you that from today onwards, Mad Southern Yi is not alone. He still has me, tens of millions of cultivators in China, and billions of people in China. If you touch Mad Southern Yi, you'll be my enemy. You'll be the enemy of tens of millions of cultivators in China, and billions of people in China." His voice was loud and clear, like a great bell that shook the world, causing the expressions of countless people to change. The former's words were just too shocking. Mad Southern Yi represented China. If they dared to touch Mad Southern Yi, they would be enemies with the entire China. Who else in the world could enjoy such honor? Good. Touching Mad Southern Yi is equivalent to touching China. The king dies for the country, and the Son of Heaven guards the country. Mad Southern Yi is a scholar of China, and he deserves such honor. Amidst the uproar, the entire world was in an uproar, and the internet seemed to have set off a storm. It was incomparably explosive, and countless voices were about to shake the world. Even Yi Chen looked at Daoist Beiyan emotionally. Clearly, he did not expect Daoist Beiyan to support him so much. In an instant, the voices in the air fell silent. A moment later, a sinister voice sounded, "Old geezer Beiyan, don't forget the agreement between China and us. Do you want to shed all pretenses and start a war with us today?" Many people's expressions changed when they heard that. Obviously, the numerous xenorace experts hidden in the shadows were infuriated. "It's been 12 years, a whole 12 years. Daoist Beiyan suddenly laughed out loud, but tears flowed out of his eyes. "We were forced to compromise with you for 12 years. For the past 12 years, we've endured hardships to comfort the souls of the heroes from back then." At this point, he took a step forward and shouted like thunder, "Today, if you want to fight, then let's fight. China will accompany you to the end." With that, he suddenly raised his hand. Rumble! The void suddenly exploded, and thousands of people instantly appeared. These thousands of people did not have high cultivation bases. Most of them were at the nascent soul stage, but each of them held an apricot yellow flag in their hands. As the thousands of people waved the flags in their hands, an endless expanse of people appeared in the sky. It was not an exaggeration to say that it covered the sky. The most terrifying thing was that in front of the endless people, there were 100 enormous creatures that looked like ferocious beasts. They seemed to be huge cannons, but they were incomparably huge. The muzzles of the cannons emitted a dense aura, and it seemed to contain an aura that could destroy the world. Yi Chen and the Patriarch of Hell could not help but look at each other when they saw that. They saw a hint of surprise in each other's eyes. This was the perfect combination of magic tools and technology, and it contained great terror. "This is my God-shooting cannon," Daoist Beiyan's indifferent voice sounded. "There are a total of 100 of them. Each of them can kill an early-stage soul formation cultivator. This is the confidence of China." End of this chapter. Chapter 1432. As soon as he said that, the world was in an uproar. At that moment, everyone's scalps went numb as they looked at the 100 terrifying beast-like killing weapons standing in the air. God-slaying cannon. It could actually kill an early-stage soul formation cultivator. In other words, if 100 God-slaying cannons were fired at the same time, not to mention 100 early-stage soul formation cultivators, even half of the Earth would be destroyed. This was the first time China had revealed its trump card to the outside world. However, it caused an earth-shattering shock. In an instant, the United States, England, Japan, and other countries that were paying attention to this scene through the internet could not sit still anymore. The leader of the United States sat up in shock. He stared fixedly at the terrifying beasts on the screen, and his face twitched. God-slaying cannon? After 12 years of suffering, Hua Nation actually created such a powerful weapon? How is this possible? F***CK, what is the CIA doing? This scene seemed to be playing out in all of the countries at the same time. Countless leaders of the various countries started to move. To be precise, they were shocked. If what Taoist Beiyan said was true, did that not mean that China had the strength to control the future of Earth? Compared to the Western countries, China was in an uproar. Whether it was the people at the scene or the netizens who were watching this scene through the internet, their emotions were surging. It was just like how they felt when they saw the strength of their motherland through the military parade every year. Everyone was proud of their motherland's strength. Yi Chen took a good look at the god-slaying cannons. An undetectable gleam flashed through his eyes. Looks like China has obtained a lot of benefits from the Yin ruins. With the appearance of the 100 god-slaying cannons, the previously noisy space instantly quietened down. Obviously, even the powerhouses among them were silent. Taoist Beiyan seemed to be extremely happy to see this scene. He said again, "I know that none of you are willing to believe it. Alright, I'll make an exception today and let you all experience it." After saying that, he suddenly turned around and said to a man in military uniform in the void, "General Wu, which is the closest immortal sect in China that's from here?" General Wu subconsciously straightened his back and then shouted, "Old Bei, the nearest outer realm immortal sect to us is Jiaodong's ethereal palace, 2,000 miles away." "Fire!" Taoist Dark North waved his hand and said, "Destroy Misty Palace?" "Yes." General Wu's body trembled, then he turned around and shouted at the nearest god-slaying cannon, "Fire!" Rumble, in an instant, the people standing around the god-slaying cannon began to move. They quickly reloaded the cannon, embedded the spirit stones, and activated the array boom. As the world shook violently, a pillar of light shot out from the god-slaying cannon and headed straight for the north. Amidst the mountains 2,000 miles away, there was a transcendental place that looked like a heavenly palace. Spiritual energy was like fog, and cranes cried out in unison. 8th Elder Tian Xingzi sneered as he looked at the array light screen in front of him. That old bastard Dark North sure knows how to bluff. He wants to destroy Misty Palace with just a piece of scrap metal? With the death of Misty Palace's patriarch and many elders, the power of Misty Palace naturally fell into the hands of Tian Xingzi, who was at the early stage soul formation stage. At that moment there were 2 alchemy apprentices beside Tian Xingzi, who were bowing. One of them bowed and said, "Grandmaster is right. Our ethereal palace has a protective formation set up by our patriarch himself. It can withstand boom." Before he could finish, he suddenly felt a loud bang coming from heaven and earth. Then, everyone was buried in an endless sea of fire and a terrifying storm. Even though they were 2,000 miles away, in this era of technology and cultivation, everything that happened in Misty Palace naturally did not escape the eyes of everyone. When they saw the fairyland-like Misty Palace being razed to the ground, dead silence. 9 Dragons Bay suddenly fell into a dead silence. Misty Palace was really destroyed by a cannon? Before this, there were still people who felt that Taoist Beiyan's words were exaggerated. Now, all that was left was endless shock. 1 cannon to destroy a sect. There was nothing more shocking than this. The Western countries were speechless. The void was extremely silent. However, one could tell from the spiritual wills that they quickly retracted that the many experts hiding in the dark were also shocked. "I wonder what you all think of the power of our god-shooting cannon?" Taoist Beiyan watched this scene with a smile. His tone suddenly turned cold. "If that's not enough, China has no less than 50 soul formation stage cultivators guarding the Yin ruins. They will be able to break out of the realm and join the battle in an instant." As he said that, everyone's heart froze. It seemed like China was really prepared to fight with the otherworldly celestial sections. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made such a big show. After an unknown period of time, an old voice faintly came from the void. Fellow Taoist Beiyan, don't be rash. After this, our Big River Sword sect will send someone to register with the extraterritorial tribunal. Obviously, some of the otherworldly celestial sects had given in. Behind him, voices were heard one after another scrambling to be the first to speak. My Tianqing sect will definitely head to the extraterritorial tribunal in the future. My True Spirit sect will do the same, and my Li Fire sect. In an instant, nearly 10 otherworldly celestial sects expressed their willingness to compromise with China. However, after them, the void fell into silence again. Looks like some people won't shed a tear until they see their coffins. Taoist Beiyan squinted and scoffed. Then, he turned around and looked at Yi Chen. Mad Southern Yi, under the orders of the higher-ups, I appoint you as the head of the mysterious division. At the same time, you will also be the head of the extraterritorial tribunal. The responsibility of the mysterious division is to suppress all forces that are enemies of China. You can mobilize the God Transformation Stage Consecrators of China and 100 God-slaying cannons. 17 years ago, countless ancestors were stained with blood. China was powerless to deal with all of this, and we still allowed the enemy to be arrogant. 17 years later, China's strength has increased greatly, and the younger generation has grown strong enough to kill their way into the sky. His voice was like thunder that shook the surroundings. Since someone is unwilling to compromise, then we'll stop them with martial arts, we'll stop them with killing. At this point, he was almost roaring, Mad Southern Yi, do you dare to fight? Fight. A loud shout swept through the clouds. Yi Chen took a step forward. Killing intent filled a radius of 3,000 meters as he grinned and said, I'll destroy everything today and return China to a bright world and eternal peace. End of this chapter. Chapter 1433. Fight. Today we will destroy everything and return China to a bright world and eternal peace. As Yi Chen received Taoist Beiyan's order, the silent world was filled with surging killing intent. Kill. Many of the older generation of Chinese experts roared at the sky. It had been 17 years. Ever since the extraterrestrial civilization descended on Earth, they had endured humiliation for 17 years. Finally, they had waited for this day. Most of the time, it was not that they were unwilling to resist, but they were disappointed. They were disappointed that everything around them had gone against their original intentions. The drastic change forced them to choose to endure. However, it was different today. Previously, Mad Southern Yi had ruthlessly defeated the spirit of the foreign immortal sects and broken the invisible shackles around the necks of countless cultivators on Earth. Later on, Taoist Beiyan, who represented the Chinese authorities, had appeared. Since the higher-ups were not afraid of a battle, what more them? Fight, fight, fight. Cultivate my spear and destroy everything. We will avenge the humiliation of the past today. In an instant, countless excited voices rang out from all over China. The internet was already in an uproar, and the voices for war had reached an unprecedented level that might shock the expressions of the foreign giants who were hiding in the dark. Clearly, they did not expect that this matter would cause the hearts of the people of China to be completely twisted. Who was the one who was talking in the dark? Yi Chen lifted his head suddenly and looked at the sky. Subsequently, he extended his hand. In an instant, an old man in a yellow robe and cloak was held in his hand. Mad Southern Yi, what are you trying to do? The man panicked and struggled because he was the one who had secretly fanned the flames. However, how could he struggle free with his early-stage God Transformation Stage cultivation base? Of course I'm going to kill you. Yi Chen's gaze turned cold, and his voice was so cold that there was no emotion at all. Since you guys aren't willing to accept China's conditions, what's the point of existing in this world? With that, he slowly clenched his fist. The old man in the yellow cloak screamed and died on the spot. After doing all that, Yi Chen looked at the sky and said slowly, Is there anyone who's unwilling to accept China's conditions? Please step forward. I just want to be killed by you guys or kill you guys. As soon as these words were spoken, the world fell silent. Everyone fell into a daze. Even Taoist Dark North and the others were flabbergasted. He only wanted to be beaten to death, or to be beaten to death. This sentence was not just an ordinary kind of arrogance. Even though this was the case, there was not the slightest movement in the vast space. Clearly, the many hidden powerhouses had chosen to remain silent. Very good. Yi Chen looked around and said calmly, "Within 3 days, I'll be waiting for all of you at the Foreign Adjudication Department. You can choose not to come, but I'll come to you when the time comes." With that, he took a step forward and landed on the ground. "Everyone, please." With a flick of his sleeve, Taoist Beiyan immediately ordered his guests to leave. In an instant, everyone present had completely disappeared. Even the media of the various countries were no exception. 9 Dragons Bay, Yi Family Villa. As soon as Yi Chen stepped in and closed the door, he spat a mouthful of blood out. His face turned pale at a speed visible to the naked eye. Yi Chen, Xiao Chen, Su Yuhan, Yi Hai, and the rest's expressions changed when they saw that. They quickly walked forward with extremely nervous expressions. Big brother, Yi Wushuang took a step forward and held Yi Chen tightly. The Patriarch of Hell and Taoist Beiyan stepped forward one after another. "I'm fine." Yi Chen wiped the blood from the corner of his lips and revealed a pale smile to everyone. He said, "I've just overexerted myself. I'll be fine after resting for a while." "How is this overexertion?" The Patriarch of Hell looked at him with an extremely complicated expression and sighed softly. "I've already said that without 3 drops of heart blood, the vital energy and blood in your body will dry up day by day. You can't fight anymore." At this point, he could not help but shake his head. "However, you didn't listen to my advice. In order to deal with the 8 foreign immortal sects, you forcefully exhausted your remaining vital energy and blood." Taoist Beiyan's expression changed when he heard that. Subsequently, he clasped his fists at Yi Chen. "Fellow Yi, I thank you on behalf of China." Why did Yi Chen disregard his physical condition and insist on defeating the 8 immortal sects? It was none other than to intimidate the foreign civilizations and indirectly display China's deterrent power. "Patriarch, what should we do about Xiaochen?" Wu Lan said with a trembling voice. After that exhaustion, the vital energy and blood in his body can dry up at any time. The Patriarch of Hell sighed faintly and said, "When that happens, his body will be crippled unless he possesses it or becomes a ghost cultivator. Are those the only 2 ways?" Su Yuhan carried her son and looked at Yi Chen while trembling. She bit her lips and said, "Yi Chen, take back the heart blood in my body. Perhaps you can stop all of this, silly." Yi Chen took a deep breath in and held her little hand gently. He forced a smile and said, "You'll definitely die if I take back the heart blood in your body. Although I've lost the heart blood, I won't die yet. But my heart aches for you." Su Yuhan could not control her tears. The Patriarch of Hell seemed to have thought of something. He suddenly looked at Yi Chen. "Fellow Yi, did you say that there's something in Yin Su that can heal your injuries?" "That's right." Yi Chen looked at Taoist Beiyan, who was next to him by instinct. Then, he nodded and said, "Therefore, I'm determined to go to Yin Su." "All right. When the Yin Su tunnel reopens, I'll personally send you in." Taoist Beiyan said with a solemn expression, "When the time comes, I'll get the powerhouses of China in Yin Su to help you." "That's good too." The Patriarch of Hell nodded and said to Yi Chen, "Fellow Yi, I'll suppress your vital energy and blood in the following days. Don't fight anyone anymore, especially don't consume your vital energy and blood." "All right." Yi Chen could only agree. In the next few days, the entire Earth was discussing the battle at 9 Dragons Bay. Meanwhile, Yi Chen's terrifying battle record was spread to every corner of the world. At that moment, Yi Chen was in the limelight. At that moment, those who were observant realized that 9 Dragons Bay was silent. Yi Chen's news disappeared as well. Various countries used the most secretive methods and technology to spy on the situation at Nine Dragons Bay, but they failed in the end. On the third day, on the fourth day, on the fifth day, on the seventh day, there was still no news of Yi Chen. At that moment, an explosive news spread in the dark. Big news! Mad Southern Yi has been staying in Nine Dragons Bay for 7 consecutive days and has not shown his face. It's suspected that his injuries have flared up and he's on the verge of death. End of this chapter. Chapter 1434. Whoosh. As soon as the news spread, it spread throughout the world at a terrifying speed, causing an earth-shattering earthquake. What? Mad Southern Yi is on his deathbed? He's about to die? How is that possible? You have to know that he has only killed over 100 soul formation powerhouses from the 8 immortal sections. He even killed a perfected soul formation powerhouse. What's impossible about it? What if Mad Southern Yi feels that he doesn't have much time left and wants to buy time for China? That's why he attacked at all costs to intimidate us? If Mad Southern Yi dies now, it will be an extremely heavy blow to China and the entire Earth. It was as if this conversation appeared in various places at the same time, and many of the powerhouses from the outer realm moved upon hearing the news. Investigate. Investigate it thoroughly. In an instant, it seemed that the US, England, Japan, and other large countries had issued countless orders to use their hidden power. In the battle 7 days ago, Yi Chen had used his strength to prove everything. At the same time, he had announced China's strength. The foreign immortal sects were afraid of his strength, so they chose to endure it. If he really died, then the foreign immortal sects that they had offended would jump out to take revenge. By then, how could China withstand such pressure? In just a day, many powerhouses from the outer realm and countries around the world moved because of Yi Chen. They sent people to Nine Dragons Bay. Dear Madam Yiwen, I'm a minister of the U.S. Senate. I have something to discuss with His Excellency Mad Southern Yi. Madam Yiwen, we've all come because of your reputation. We hope that you can introduce us to Mr. Yi. The entire Nine Dragons Bay was completely surrounded. The scene was even worse than Yi Chen's wedding day. Yiwen's response to this was the same. I'm sorry, my brother is out. He's not at home at the moment. If you want to see him later, come back another day. Because of that, the rumors that Yi Chen was on the verge of death exploded. Looks like Mad Southern Yi is really dying. Some of the powerhouses from the outer realm keenly sensed that something was wrong. They sneered and said, "This brat tried to suppress us earlier. I didn't expect him to die before he could do anything. In my opinion, wouldn't it be better for us to join forces and kill our way into Nine Dragons Bay? No, I suspect that there's a trap. What if we rush in now and find out that it's Mad Southern Yi's trick to lure us into attacking? What should we do?" You're right. Let's wait a little longer. Someone tried to perform a heaven-defying divination technique to steal Yi Chen's birth providence at all costs. However, he suffered a backlash and almost died. This brat's birth providence is so powerful. He almost killed me. In this peaceful world, there was actually an undercurrent of excitement. In Nine Dragons Bay, in a quiet room that was separated by layers of formations, Yi Chen sat quietly on the bed with his legs crossed. There were people around him. If one took a closer look, they would realize that Yi Chen's skin was as dry as tree bark at that moment. From afar, he looked like an old man with one foot in the grave. Shaochen, don't die. If you die, you'll leave Yuhan and the 2 kids behind. What about your father and me? Wu Lan ignored the people who were trying to stop her. She ran over and hugged Yi Chen tightly. Tears blurred her eyes as her heart ached. Yi Hai's body was trembling. In the past 7 days, the vital energy and blood in Yi Chen's body were getting weaker and weaker. Today, no one had any hope. Su Yuhan bit her lips and looked at him with determination. Yi Chen, if you die, I won't live alone. She shouted at the top of her lungs. Meng Meng held her head and hugged Yi Chen's thigh tightly. Her tears were like broken pearls. Daddy, I won't allow you to die, big brother, Qian cried. Her eyes were red, and she was very reluctant. She still remembered that if it were not for Yi Chen, she would still be begging on the street. If it were not for Yi Chen, she would still be in the hands of the immortal palace. Mom, don't be like this. Yi Chen patted Wu Lan's shoulder with trembling hands. He then looked at the people around him and mumbled, all the vital energy and blood in my body are exhausted. I'm afraid I can only choose to possess someone. In this sense, I'm not considered dead. I can only say that I've changed bodies. Don't be so sad. He felt his eyelids getting heavier and heavier. In the end, his gaze landed on Su Yuhan. Don't worry, I won't die, and I don't want you to die. Fellow Yi, if you want to possess someone, the Cauldron Patriarch has already found a few perfect targets for you. The Patriarch of Hell looked at Yi Chen with a grim expression. Just when he was about to speak, he saw his son, Yi Ming, who was next to Su Yuhan, suddenly run toward Yi Chen. Although the little guy was less than a month old, he could already walk even though it had only been a month since he inherited Yi Chen's talent and was fed with the dear demon's milk. On the surface, he looked like a little boy who looked like he was 2 years old. He staggered toward Yi Chen with his chubby little body. The little guy smiled at him as he ran. He extended his chubby little hand, as if he wanted to shake Yi Chen's hand. Perhaps because he ran too fast, under everyone's gaze, his body staggered and fell forward, smashing heavily into the wall beside him. Wah! The little guy cried on the spot after being hit. Su Yuhan and the rest hurriedly walked over to pick him up, only to see a small crack on his forehead. Blood was flowing out from it. The most shocking thing was, the blood was golden in color, as if it had been melted. It was dazzling and extremely hot. It faintly contained the might of an emperor, making it impossible for people to look at it. The emperor's blood. The Patriarch of Hell's expression changed completely. As if he had discovered something terrifying, he cried out in shock, "This is the emperor's blood!" At the next moment, before everyone could react, a drop of extremely dense golden blood suddenly shot out from the little guy's body. The drop of golden blood was as resplendent as a small sun. Subsequently, it shot into Yi Chen's body as if it had a life of its own. Under everyone's stunned gazes, Yi Chen's body emitted dazzling golden gleams after absorbing the drop of golden blood. The most shocking thing was that the dried-up vital energy and blood in Yi Chen's body started to stir. His old face was recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. Everyone stared blankly at this scene. Clearly, they did not expect such a strange change to happen. He, the little guy, who was crying earlier, could not help but giggle and dance when he saw Yi Chen's transformation. Sensing the rapid recovery of vital energy and blood in his body, Yi Chen felt a little dazed. Then, he suddenly looked at the little guy who was giggling. That drop of golden blood earlier, was this little guy's heart blood? Chapter 1435. Under everyone's gaze, Yi Chen's chest shone with golden light. Yi Chen's chest emitted a golden glow. The glow was getting more and more dazzling. In the end, it was as if he was looking directly at a golden sun. Plop, plop. A weak heartbeat suddenly sounded in the originally silent room. The heartbeat grew louder and louder. In the end, it was like the roar of a war drum or thunder. In an instant, a terrifying aura gradually awakened in Yi Chen's body. The aura was overbearing and ancient. It was as majestic as a prison, and it carried a supreme aura. It made one's heart palpitate and the depths of one's soul tremble. Bang, bang, bang. Under this pressure, the expressions of quite a number of people in the room changed. All of them were unable to control their bodies as they heavily prostrated on the ground. Even the Patriarch of Hell and Taoist Beiyan were no exception, especially the latter. Extreme waves surged in his heart. One had to know that he was a perfected God transformation stage cultivator, but he could not resist Yi Chen's pressure. The only ones who were not affected were Yi Chen's daughter, son, and Yi Wushuang, who was standing aside. Emperor Blood Reconstruction. The Patriarch of Hell stared at Yi Chen. At that moment, he was extremely shocked. This is a sign of Emperor Blood Reconstruction, and it's innate Emperor Blood. The so-called Emperor Blood. To cultivators, there was only one kind of emperor, and that was the emperor who lived above the 9 heavens and suppressed the immortals. The Patriarch of Hell did not know why Yi Chen's descendants had emperor blood. However, he was sure that the emperor blood must have been passed down to his descendants by Yi Chen. Did it mean that Yi Chen was an emperor? When he thought of this, he was shocked to the extreme. Xiaoqin, what's going on? Yi Hai and Wu Lan, who were already in despair, could not help but be dumbfounded. Su Yuhan cried tears of joy. Just now, she really thought that something would happen to Yi Chen. Her heart almost broke. The aura in Yi Chen's body was still growing stronger, and his face was no longer as pale as before. Now, his entire body was erupting with terrifying vital energy and blood. One could see golden blood flowing through various parts of his body from time to time, emitting divine power. To the Patriarch of Hell, Yi Chen was even more terrifying than before. He could probably kill a late-stage God transformation stage cultivator with his vital energy and blood alone. Why is fellow Ye's aura getting stronger and stronger? The Patriarch of Hell was puzzled as he thought to this point. Logically speaking, Yi Chen's body had almost decayed. Even if he could recover, it would be difficult for him to return to his peak. Among everyone, Yi Wushuang was the only one with a burning smile in his eyes. He's awake. The sealed imperial palace in Brother's body has been reconstructed again. The monarch path was different from ordinary cultivators. They had to light up their own monarch palace within their bodies. This monarch palace had 7 profound entrances: Celestial Being, Immortal Bridge, Jade Lake, Jade Capital, Numinous Sky, Emperor's Throne, and Heavenly Court. An emperor's primordial spirit guarded the imperial palace. Every time a hidden gate was opened, an even more terrifying power could erupt. If he opened the hidden gate of the Heavenly Court, it would be the time when Yi Chen returned to his peak. During the battle in the immortal world, Big Brother shattered his own Emperor Palace and stimulated his 7 great profound entrances to erupt with boundless potential. Although he was lucky enough to survive, it also caused a flaw in his body. Yi Wushuang suppressed the joy on his face and looked at Yi Chen. I didn't expect Brother's Imperial Palace to be rebuilt again. Brother is truly reborn this time. Master's Imperial Palace has been rebuilt. He was not the only one. Even the Night Demon armor and Emperor Brush, the 2 immortal weapons that had once followed Yi Chen, were extremely excited at that moment. Boom! Before everyone could react, a terrifying and extreme power suddenly erupted from Yi Chen's daughter, Mengming's body. In just a few breaths of time, the power actually rose from Spirit Assembly to Beginner Stage Nascent Soul, Intermediate Stage Nascent Soul, Advanced Stage Nascent Soul, and finally stuck at Peak Stage Nascent Soul. The moment Mengming's aura skyrocketed, terrifying auras poured out from Yi Hai, Yi Wen, Wu Lan, Yi Chen's younger brother, Yi Xing, and Yi Ming. Among them, Yi Hai rose all the way to Beginner Stage Nascent Soul. Wu Lan was at Peak Stage Golden Core, while Yi Wen was at Beginner Stage Golden Core. Meanwhile, Yi Chen's younger brother, Yi Xing, and son, Yi Ming, grew 2 inches taller. The former rose to Intermediate Stage Nascent Soul, while the latter rose to Peak Stage Nascent Soul. This sudden scene caused everyone to be incomparably shocked. It's the power of the bloodline. The Patriarch of Hell cried out involuntarily. The power of the bloodline in their bodies is similar to fellow Yes. At this moment it has been completely stimulated. The moment that was said, Taoist Beiyan could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. What kind of bloodline can be so terrifying? That was right, it was too terrifying. Even a baby who had been born for less than a month had stepped into Peak Stage Nascent Soul. He was only a step away from God Transformation Stage. How could they, who had only cultivated to God Transformation Stage after going through thousands of tribulations, endure this. The Patriarch of Hell could not help but glance at Yi Chen by instinct when he heard that. A gleam flashed through his eyes. In the cultivation world, even the geniuses of many super sects that were hailed as rare in 10,000 years would only be able to step into nascent soul in their teens. However, what were these geniuses compared to Yi Chen's children? Thinking to this point, he immediately said, "Fellow Beiyan, we must not let the outside world sense this commotion. Join forces with me to reinforce the formation to ensure that nothing goes wrong." "All right." Taoist Beiyan nodded heavily. He immediately took action and set up formations with the Patriarch of Hell in the house. He knew very well that if the outside world found out about the drastic change in Yi Chen's body, it would definitely bring disaster to the Yi family and the entire China. In the next few days, everyone stayed by Yi Chen's side, especially the Patriarch of Hell and Taoist Beiyan. They would reinforce the formation from time to time. Although their minds were exhausted, they still persevered bitterly. It was because everyone knew that when the skyrocketing aura in Yi Chen's body stabilized completely, there would definitely be a tremendous change. Yi Chen's body was still recovering rapidly. The vital energy and blood in his body were becoming more and more exuberant. It was like a churning ocean with thousands of waves. His body would occasionally turn golden, and his heart would sometimes turn into a lava furnace. It was dazzling and resplendent. If one took a closer look, they would discover that there was an extremely dazzling mysterious golden crystal in the depths of his glabella. It was as deep as a planet in the vast universe, and it contained great terror. "Fellow Yi, oh, fellow Yi, how many secrets do you have?" The Patriarch of Hell, who had witnessed everything with his own eyes, could not calm down at all. He looked at Yi Chen, who had recovered quietly, and mumbled to himself, "Could you really be an immortal king who lives above the 9 heavens? Are you an immortal king descending to the mortal world, or are you an immortal fetus?" Even though he had lived for close to 10,000 years in his previous life and thought that he was knowledgeable, his state of mind had never been as emotional as it was today. P.S. There's only one chapter today. I've finally filled in the holes that I've been laying for a long time. I'll start killing tomorrow. Chapter 1436. Everyone stayed in 9 Dragons Bay to protect Yi Chen for half a month. The Patriarch of Hell and Taoist Beiyan, in particular, did not dare to leave. They were worried that something would happen again. In the past half a month, the outside world was in chaos. Since half a month ago, when the outside world said that Yi Chen was on his deathbed, the discussion about Yi Chen had never stopped. Not only did it not weaken, but it was getting more and more intense. All the countries and immortal sects in the world tried to confirm Yi Chen's condition. Meanwhile, Tang Ning and the rest, who were in charge of receiving these people, used the excuse that Yi Chen was out to reject them from entering 9 Dragons Bay. The situation was getting worse by the day. In the end, even Tang Ning and the rest could not handle it. They could only ask Hall Master Beiyan and the other 30 soul formation cultivators to guard 9 Dragons Bay. In a mysterious cave abode thousands of kilometers away from 9 Dragons Bay. There were many figures gathered there, and every single one of them emitted an aura that caused space to tremble. On the prayer mat in the lead, a silver-haired old man in a black and white Taoist robe was sitting cross-legged. The old man crossed his arms in front of his chest, and his true energy was majestic like a dazzling galaxy. It faintly contained the energy of the great Tao of heaven and earth. At that moment, the silver-haired old man suddenly opened his eyes. There was an unconcealable sneer in his eyes. "Everyone, I've spent 100 years of my lifespan to perform divination. I've already deduced that mad Southern Ye's life is in danger. He's already at the end of his rope." At this point, killing intent flashed across his slightly pale face. "This is the best opportunity to kill him." "All right." In the quiet cave dwelling, a trembling sound suddenly rang out. "Mad Southern Yi looks down on our foreign immortal sex just because he has some talent. He even wants to suppress us." Today is the day he dies. That's right. This kid is suspected to have Earth's luck. He will definitely die. Otherwise, he will definitely ruin our plan in the future. As long as this kid dies, China will have no choice but to recognize the agreement we made earlier. Let's go. Today, we'll destroy Lin City and slaughter everything. No one knew who shouted. In the next instant, his figure suddenly broke through the space and disappeared. Swish, swish. Behind him, dozens of majestic auras whistled out from the cave and disappeared into the world. Totem City, North America, in the Eerie Castle. A black-robed high priest stood with a staff and looked at the silent crowd below. I just received reliable news that Mad Southern Yi is on his deathbed. Many powerhouses from the immortal sex have already headed to Lin City in China. As soon as these words came out, the silent crowd immediately burst into an uproar. The black-clothed high priest leaned on his walking stick. His eyes were hollow, and his voice was cold. Under the orders of Lord God, Totem City of North America must help the powerhouses of the immortal sex from the outer regions kill Mad Southern Yi. Once Mad Southern Yi dies, China will no longer be a threat. As soon as he finished speaking, the entire hall was filled with the sounds of killing that sounded like a stormy sea. Kill Mad Southern Yi. Totem City of North America turned out in full force. The United States, England, Japan, India, in an instant, silhouettes with terrifying auras soared into the sky from all over Earth. They broke through space and headed straight for China. Therefore, all the top powerhouses on Earth sensed this scene. With so many powerhouses moving out together, it naturally caused a huge commotion. Countless cultivators looked at this scene in fear. Their target is China? No, they're heading towards Lin City. Mad Southern Yi, their target is Mad Southern Yi. The world is changing, the world is going to change again. Many people muttered to themselves. Coupled with the storm that had happened in the past half a month, they immediately realized that what was going to happen next would probably cause a shocking upheaval on Earth. Almost at that moment, China also noticed all of this, and many powerhouses immediately went to the major gates to guard and intercept. After that, a shocking battle erupted. Both sides even sent out no less than 5 existences at the Great Perfection Soul Formation stage. However, this battle did not last long before it ended with the defeat of the Chinese cultivation world. It was because many of the top powerhouses of the Chinese cultivation world were guarding the Yin ruins. Tianan Lin City, 9 Dragons Bay. The atmosphere was suffocating. They couldn't hold it in the end? When Tang Ning, Xiaoya, and the rest received the news, their faces turned extremely pale. Their bodies trembled slightly, and their beautiful eyes were filled with fear. Throughout the half a month that Yi Chun had been in closed-door cultivation, they had been dealing with the storms in the outside world. What they were most worried about was that someone would not be able to hold back an attack. However, it still happened now. Even the God Transformation stage powerhouses like the North Sea Temple Master were extremely shocked. It was because not only did the foreign immortal sex want Yi Chun dead this time, but there were also secret forces and holy lands from all over the world. Clearly, they did not want to see a monster like Yi Chun in China. What worried them the most was that there were a total of 5 Great Perfection Soul Formation stage powerhouses among the people who were fighting the Chinese powerhouses. Qin Xiaotian, who was in front of the women, took a deep breath in and said, "Ms. Tang, the higher-ups want to transfer Brother Yi immediately. Only then will there be a glimmer of hope. 5 Great Perfection Soul Formation stage powerhouses. Even China only had 3 Great Perfection Soul Formation stage powerhouses. 2 of them were currently in Yinsu, and they were being held back by the foreign immortal sex in Yinsu. They could not split up at all and could not break through the path to provide support. Just the North Sea Temple Master and the other 30 God Transformation stage powerhouses could not deal with this crisis at all. It could be said that this was a dead end. It was a death trap that the foreign immortal sects and the various countries in the world had joined forces to kill Yi Chen completely. Tang Ning suppressed the fear inside of her immediately after hearing what Qin Xiaotian said and said, "All right, I'll inform Yi Wen and the rest to transfer master now." With that, she was about to turn around and leave when her body suddenly froze. Then, she turned her head to look at the sky with great difficulty. There, a huge cloud that covered the sky and earth whistled over. The terrifying aura within the cloud enveloped the entire world, as if a black cloud was pressing down on a city. Especially the 5 figures in the lead. They were like gods descending to the mortal world. They carried the blue sky on their backs, stepped on all living beings, and their might was unparalleled. At the same time, everyone in Lin City noticed the figures that covered the sky and earth in the sky. They felt as if there was a huge mountain above their heads, and they were almost suffocating. Seeing this scene, the expressions of Tang Ning, Xiao Ye, the North Sea Temple Master, and the rest darkened to the extreme. Under the pressure of that terrifying aura, they felt the urge to kneel on the ground. Damn it, they actually came so quickly. Qin Xiaotian's expression changed drastically. A fierce look flashed across his eyes, and his heart sank completely. End of this chapter. Chapter 1437. At the same time, in 9 Dragons Bay, the Patriarch of Hell and the rest held their breath. They stared at Yi Chen, who was sitting cross-legged before them without moving at all. At that moment, Yi Chen's skin was as translucent as jade. It was resplendent and dazzling. He looked like a young man in his early 20s. His white hair had already returned to black. Under everyone's gaze, his tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. It was as if lightning had streaked across the sky. At that moment, his eyes were incomparably blazing. It was as if the sun had exploded, shooting out resplendent divine light. Boom! Then, a monstrous and terrifying aura swept out from his body. The vital energy and blood in Yi Chen's body were surging. It was like raging waves hitting the shore, yet it was also like thunder that shook the 9 heavens. It slowly flowed through his muscles and bones, emitting a thick might that could split the sky. All the spirit chi in the 9 Dragons Bay swarmed toward him and gathered into his body without leaving a single trace behind. Boom! The entire Yi family villa shook violently under the impact of the vital energy and blood, as if it could collapse. Yi Hai and the rest fell to the ground, their expressions filled with shock. Before everyone could think too much, Yi Chen stood up slowly. His black hair fluttered like an immortal king descending to the mortal world. No one dared to look at him. Xiaochen Wulan shouted. She was so excited that tears filled her eyes. She wanted to reach out and touch her son. How had she spent the past half a month? Su Yuhan's eyes were blurry, and her tears wet her clothes. The Patriarch of Hell reminded them at the right time, "Don't touch him first. He has undergone rebirth now, and he has yet to fully control the energy in his body." As soon as he said that, he shook his sleeve and turned into a huge true origin barrier that protected everyone inside to prevent anyone from being injured by Yi Chen's pressure. "Fellow Yi, have you recovered now?" Taoist Bayan's lips moved slightly. "More than recovered." The Patriarch of Hell took a deep breath in and said, "I'm afraid he has already stepped into the void refinement stage. Even if he hasn't, he's not far from it." The pressure that Yi Chen gave him at that moment was too intense. It was completely different from before. It was as if he was facing an ancient immortal king. Eventually, the terrifying pressure on Yi Chen's body faded away gradually. His eyes became clear as he looked at everyone with joy and excitement. He glanced at Su Yuhan, his daughter, his son, his parents, the Patriarch, Wu Shuang, and everyone else. Eventually, he took a few steps forward and hugged her tightly as he met her blurry eyes. He said while sniffing her hair, "I'm sorry for making you worry. It's good that you're fine, it's good that you're fine." Su Yuhan hugged her tightly, all the emotions that she had been suppressing erupted. "Daddy," the little girl ran over and hugged his thigh tightly. child, it's great that you're all right. Yi Hai and Wu Lan couldn't hold it in any more and rushed over. The patriarch of Yellow Spring breathed a sigh of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He stepped forward to look at Yi Futian and said, "Fellow Yi, how do you feel now?" "Very good." Yi Chen closed his eyes lightly as if he was sensing the changes in his body. The vital energy and blood in his body were surging. "I'm invincible in the world." "You've reached the void tempering stage?" Patriarch Yellow Spring and Taoist Baiyan's eyes widened in shock. "No." Yi Chen smiled lightly. "My situation is different from yours. I'll explain it to you one by one in the future." At that moment, he was at most at the late-stage God transformation stage. However, the imperial palace had awakened and he had opened the heavenly man of the 7 great entrances. Above that was the immortal bridge. That couldn't be any better. The boulder in Taoist Baiyan's heart was completely lifted. He said with a tired expression, "You're now a legend in the hearts of everyone in China. If anything happens to you, the consequences will be unimaginable." The patriarch of Yellow Spring's lips moved slightly. "Fellow Yi, do you know how the heart blood in your body recovered?" He actually wanted to ask why Yi Chen had the emperor blood, but he swallowed the words when they were at the tip of his tongue. Yi Chen's eyes flickered when he heard that. He could not help but look at his son, Yi Ming, who was next to him. The little guy had fallen asleep a long time ago. He seemed to have exhausted a lot. This little guy, a smile flashed through Yi Chen's eyes. Clearly, his son had inherited his emperor blood. At the critical moment, he had accidentally given him a drop of emperor blood, which allowed the dried-up vital energy and blood in his body to recover. As for why it was his son and not his daughter, it was because when Su Yuhan was naughty, Yi Chen had just been thrown into the cultivation world by the Su family. At that time, he was just a struggling little cultivator. He was still far from the heavenly emperor's throne. On the other hand, his son was born to Su Yuhan after he returned from the immortal world. Naturally, he had inherited the fate and aptitude that he possessed. Let's not talk about that for now. Yi Chen shook his head lightly. The smile on his face disappeared as he said word by word, "A group of ignorant fools trespassed into my territory. I have to clean them up." Ignorant fools? Taoist Baiyan was stunned at first. Then, he seemed to have thought of something, and his expression changed slightly. "Could it be that the foreign powerhouses wanted to take advantage of you after finding out about your situation?" Haha. Yi Chen smiled lightly and said calmly, 5 perfected God transformation stage cultivators. These people really think highly of me." In the next moment, he disappeared from where he was. Meanwhile, Taoist Baiyan and the rest, who remained where they were extremely shocked. 5 perfected God transformation stage cultivators. In the sky above 9 Dragons Bay, the space shook as if it was torn apart by a pair of invisible hands. Then, dozens of figures tore through the air and arrived. As they appeared, the gazes of Hall Master Bai Yun and the rest on the ground focused. Then, they joined forces and stepped into the air, facing off against them. The atmosphere was extremely cold, and killing intent shook the surroundings. 10 foreign immortal sects and 20 holy lands of Earth. What a powerful lineup! It seems like these people are determined to kill Mad Southern Yi. Mad Southern Yi is in danger. Countless bystanders who had rushed over after hearing the news could not help but inhale a breath of cold air. Their faces were filled with shock. Qin Xiaotian stepped forward and looked at the dozens of figures coldly. He said in a deep voice, "This is China's territory. Are you guys trying to provoke China by coming uninvited today?" "Haha, Divine General Qin, your words are too biased." At this moment, a faint laugh suddenly sounded in the air. "We are not deliberately provoking China today. We are only here for Mad Southern Yi." The space was torn apart again, and a terrifying pressure filled the entire world. Then, an old figure with a slightly hunched back stepped out of the void. It was an old man wearing a tattered Taoist robe. As he appeared, the entire world seemed to be frozen, and the chill was bone-chilling. Patriarch Han Ming, Qin Xiaotian's pupils constricted, and his voice was trembling. End of this chapter. Chapter 1438. This was Patriarch Han Ming, the strongest person in the Cold Nether sect of the foreign immortal sections. The Cold Nether sect was ranked in the top 10 among all the foreign immortal sections. Whether it was their foundation or the ranking of their mother planet, it was not something that a sect like the Ethereal Palace could compare to. It's actually Patriarch Han Ming. He's at the Great Perfection Soul Formation stage. His Ice-type True Qi is extremely domineering. Wasn't this person in the Yin ruins? Now he's here for Mad Southern Yi. Along with the appearance of Ancestor Han Ming, the silent heavens and the earth suddenly exploded into an uproar, and then the sound of gasps rose and fell. What fellow Han Ming said makes sense. We came to Earth to seek a win-win situation. How can we easily make enemies with China? After Patriarch Han Ming, another indifferent voice exploded in the void. As the void shook, a silver giant appeared in the sky. The silver giant's body seemed to be engraved with terrifying runes. Wherever he passed, the void seemed to be unable to bear the weight and collapsed. Su Wuyao, the sect master of the heaven-bearing demon sect. When the onlookers saw who it was, someone in the crowd let out an incomparably sharp roar, which then caused a tempestuous uproar. I didn't expect him to come too. Qin Xiaotian's heart became heavier. The heaven-bearing demon sect was also one of the foreign immortal sections. Its status was no different from the Cold Nether sect, especially the sect master of the demon sect, Su Wuyao. The heaven-bearing demon body that he cultivated was known as the strongest demon body. Hee, it's really lively today. Another laugh sounded, and another white-browed boy walked out of the void. The boy was as tall as a dwarf, but he gave off a dignified aura that could not be looked at directly. A three-eyed old man and a charming middle-aged woman in a red dress appeared one after another behind him. White-browed venerable of the sky-splitting sword sect, Crimson Whale Dojo's crimson-eyed divine lord, and White Camel Mountain's Six Desires fairy. With the arrival of the last three people, the atmosphere between heaven and earth was completely pushed to the extreme. A total of 5 experts at the Great Perfection Soul Formation stage had arrived in Lin City. On the other hand, Qin Xiaotian's heart completely sank. If there were only 1 or 2 people, they might still have the ability to resist. However, there were 5 people at the Great Perfection of the Soul Formation stage. They had no ability to deal with them at all. He fixed his eyes on Ancestor Han Ming and said with a twitching face, "Aren't you all in the Yin ruins? Why are you here?" In Yinshu, there were as many interest groups as there were hairs on a cow. They schemed against each other and guarded against each other. Now, they were willing to abandon their interests in Yinshu to deal with Yichun. Yinsu? White-browed venerable one smiled faintly. Are you trying to say why the powerhouses guarding the Yin ruins in China didn't spread the news about us? I'll tell you the truth. Crimson-eyed Immortal Lord smirked and said, "The Chinese powerhouses guarding the Yin ruins have been lured into a dangerous place by us. They can't even protect themselves now, so how can they send a message to you guys? Not to mention coming out to save you. Have you reached an agreement with the living beings in the Yin ruins?" Qin Xiaotian's expression changed drastically. Although there were undercurrents surging in the Yin ruins, they maintained a balance. If it was really as Crimson-eyed Immortal Lord had said, the Chinese powerhouses had really been lured into a dangerous place. That could only mean that the balance had been broken, and a third party had joined the fray. Then, the so-called third party must be the local living beings in the Yin ruins. You're quite smart. Crimson-eyed Immortal Lord smirked coldly. However, it's too late for you to know. If you know what's good for you today, it's not too late to scram. Otherwise, don't force us to slaughter all of you. Shameless boasting. Xiaoya, who was behind Qin Xiaotian, looked at the 5 of them coldly and said, Have you ever thought that if today's matter doesn't succeed, you'll face my master's crazy revenge? At that time, none of the orthodoxies behind you will be spared. Someone's expression changed slightly when he said that. After all, Yi Chun had slaughtered all the powerhouses from the 8 foreign immortal sects before this. He had even killed a perfected god transformation stage cultivator. Haha! The patriarch of Han Ming chuckled softly as if he was disdainful. With the 5 of us here today, even if mad Southern Yi was at his peak, he wouldn't be able to face us, let alone someone who's about to die. Why are you wasting your breath on them? The enchanting beauty, 6 desires fairy, harumphed coldly. Let's do it. Kill this brat as soon as possible to prevent any accidents from happening. All right. The heavenly devil sect master, Su Wuya's gaze turned grim. He sized up the North Sea Hall master and the rest and said, "Everyone, deal with them. Then, destroy this place. You must kill that Yi brat." The white-browed venerable man and crimson-eyed immortal lord nodded when they heard that. Without saying anything else, they charged at Qin Xiaotian and the rest. Retreat. Qin Xiaotian tried his best to remain calm and roared. Then, he urged Yi-1, the North Sea Hall master, and the rest to retreat to the Yi family villa. He knew very well that he could not stop the patriarch of Han Ming and the rest with just them. He could only try his best to preserve his strength. Where do you think you're going? Crimson-eyed immortal lord chuckled. The vertical eye between his brows suddenly emitted a dazzling ray of light, like lightning streaking across the sky. 2 early-stage god transformation stage cultivators who followed Yi Chun from the Purple World died on the spot next to the North Sea Hall master. Even their primordial spirits could not escape in time. You bastards! Qin Xiaotian clenched his fists tightly, and a monstrous unyielding battle intent swept out from his right arm. It was as if a peerless martial god had risen into the sky. Junior Qin. The white-browed venerable man smiled sinisterly. I've long heard that you fused with a martial god's arm in the Yin ruins. Unfortunately, you didn't fuse with the entire martial god's body. It's useless against your main body. Break. With that, he sneered and flicked his finger. A bead that looked like a lightning ball tore through the air and transformed into a monstrous sword gleam that slashed at Qin Xiaotian. Bang! Qin Xiaotian's figure was sent flying. There was actually a sword scar that could be seen with the naked eye on his right arm. It was a ghastly sight. The patriarch of Han Ming held his hands in the sky, and a domineering cold aura whistled towards Xiaoya and the rest. Ants die. Don't blame us. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for following the wrong person. Are we going to die here today? Looking at the frozen space that seemed like a heavenly river was falling, Tang Ning, Xiaoya, the patriarch of North Sea, and the rest could not help but feel a sense of despair. Master, we'll meet again in the next life. Xiaoya took a deep breath in and slowly closed her eyes. She chose to close her eyes and wait for death because the pressure was so terrifying that she could not resist at all. However, at that moment, a golden bolt of lightning tore through the space in the Yi family villa and shot over. At the same time, an indifferent voice reverberated through the world. If you touch a single hair of mine, I'll slaughter your entire sect. If you kill me, I'll slaughter the entire stellar region behind you. P.S. 3 chapters. I've finished updating today. At the same time, I wish myself a happy 25th birthday. Thank you for your company and support. End of this chapter. Chapter 1439. Bang. As soon as he said that, the terrifying ice-bound Milky Way that shrouded Xiaoya and the rest turned into powder easily, as if it was a piece of glass that had suffered a heavy blow. Who is it? This sudden scene immediately caused the expressions of the patriarch of Han Ming and the rest to freeze. Then, they stared fixedly at the void. The golden bolt of lightning that broke through the void soared into the sky and stood above Xiaoya's head. Then, it gradually became extremely solid, revealing a thin figure in the end. The figure's eyes were deep, and he had sword-like eyebrows. He was heroic and revealed a domineering aura, as if he was a supreme god walking in the world. Mad Southern Yi? When they saw the other party's face clearly, the patriarch of Han Ming and the rest were shocked. A trace of disbelief immediately surged in their eyes. Master? Xiaoye and the rest, who had regained their senses, suddenly cried out. Qin Xiaotian, the North Sea Hall master, and the rest were stunned at first, and then they revealed expressions of ecstasy. It's Mad Southern Yi! How is this possible? Didn't they say that he didn't have much time left and was on the verge of death? Now that I look at him, his complexion is even better than before. Perhaps it's just the final radiance of a setting sun. The originally silent area immediately burst into an uproar of extreme shock and discussion. I've made you guys worry. Yi Chen swept his gaze across Xiaoye and the rest. A smile finally appeared on his calm face. I'll tell you guys after I kill these filthy old dogs. After saying that, he raised his eyes slightly and finally fixed his gaze on the patriarch of Han Ming and the rest. His gaze gradually turned indifferent. Mad Southern Yi, you're really lucky. In the air, the patriarch of Han Ming stared at Yi Chen with a grim expression. He said while grinning coldly, before this, your vital energy and blood were exhausted. You were already dead. I didn't expect you to recover. Although he said that, a trace of suspicion that was difficult to capture flashed through the depths of his eyes. Clearly, he could not figure out Yi Chen's situation. Ha ha! A mocking smirk appeared at the corner of Yi Chen's lips when he heard that. You bunch of filthy old dogs only dare to take advantage of me when I'm in danger. Mad Southern Yi, you really have a sharp tongue. The heavenly demonic sex sect master, Su Wuya, sneered. You're just a native of Earth. Do you think you're worthy of us taking advantage of you? Today, we're just here to demand an explanation for the many Outerium passages that died tragically in your hands. Fellow Taoist Su is right. Sir God Crimson, I stood out and chimed in. Mad Southern Yi, you've massacred the passageways of our foreign immortal sections. You've angered both humans and gods. Heaven and earth won't tolerate this. Today, you'll pay the punishment you deserve. As soon as these words were spoken, many people who were observing from the shadows couldn't help but curse him for being shameless. The matter of cultivation was nothing more than killing each other. Your people from the extraterritorial immortal sects attacked Mad Southern Yi in the beginning and died because he was incompetent. Now, it was fine if you wanted to kill Mad Southern Yi, but it was a little disgusting to do it in such a dignified manner. What a bunch of shameless old fools. Yi Chen smiled. His smile was rather cold. I'm right here. Whether you can kill me to avenge those pieces of trash will depend on your abilities. Shameless boasting. The white-browed venerable man shouted as killing intent surged into the sky. Mad Southern Yi, even when you were at your peak, we weren't afraid of you. Moreover, there are 5 of us today. There's no way for you to survive. At this point, he narrowed his eyes and smiled sinisterly. If I were you, I would kneel on the ground and beg for your surrender. Perhaps I'll spare your life. Old thing, you're too noisy. Yi Chen's eyes were slightly cold. Subsequently, he took a step forward and stepped into the air. He charged at the former with large strides. His expression was calm as he looked down on everything. You actually chose to attack me? You're courting death. The white-browed, venerable man snorted coldly. He swiped his hands in the air, and as the space distorted, a gigantic bronze axe appeared in his palm in an instant. Subsequently, he slashed at Yi Chen with supreme killing intent. Buzz. As soon as the giant axe appeared, the space was cut into 2. It was as if it was splitting heaven and earth apart. It charged at Yi Chen through the 3,000 meters of space. Upon seeing that, Qin Xiaotian immediately told him everything he knew. Brother Yi, this is the white-browed venerable man's supreme spirit treasure, the Sky Axe. Be careful. Sky Axe. Hearing that, the expressions of the mighty figures present turned extremely solemn. The sky axe was the white-browed venerable man's famous treasure. He had once killed a master stage god transformation cultivator in the Yin ruins with a single strike. However, in the next moment, Yi Chen was not afraid of the giant axe that was charging at him. Instead, he took a step forward and allowed the axe to hit his chest. Clang! With a loud bang, the sky axe was sent flying. If one took a closer look, they would notice that there was a shocking gap on the blade of the axe. On the other hand, Yi Chen did not move at all. He was unscathed. Whoosh! At the sight of this scene, the sound of gasping resounded in the surroundings, and they seemed to be filled with disbelief. How is this possible? The white-browed venerable man's expression changed instantly, and disbelief flashed through his eyes. Not only is he unscathed from the Supreme Spirit Treasure's attack with his physical body, he almost destroyed the Supreme Spirit Treasure. The pupils of the crimson-eyed Divine Lord and the rest constricted when they saw that. I've underestimated this kid. Fairy Six Desires, who had never spoken, had an extremely grim expression. It's very likely that this kid cultivates both spells and martial arts. Moreover, he's the same as the ancient martial artists on the celestial burial planet. The remnants of the ancient martial artists on the celestial burial planet? The heavenly devil sect master, Su Wuyao, narrowed his eyes and said fearfully, "No wonder this kid's physical body is so powerful. After all, the ancient martial artists on the celestial burial planet have produced many powerhouses. Their fists can shake the galaxy and dominate the heavens." So what? The Patriarch of Han Ming smirked coldly. He's just relying on his powerful physical body. It's nothing. Let me try. At the next moment, he pushed his hands out horizontally, and an extremely cold aura that seemed to materialize immediately surged out from his palms, sweeping through heaven and earth. In an instant, the sky changed color. The space within 3,000 meters around Yi Chen was frozen directly. The most terrifying thing was that the space around Yi Chen seemed to have turned into terrifying heavenly rivers that pressed down on him. "This is my unique divinity, Ice Age." The Patriarch of Han Ming looked at Yi Chen with a ferocious expression and said while grinning coldly, "I'd like to see what you're capable of breaking my divinity." The expressions of Xiao Ye and the rest could not help but change when they saw that. They then looked at Yi Chen nervously. "Master." "Brother Yi." Qin Xiaotian's heart was in his throat. Under everyone's gaze, Yi Chen dusted his clothes and said calmly, "It's just an ice-type spell. How can it be called a divinity?" End of this chapter. Chapter 1440. I'll show you what a divinity is. After saying that, two golden flames suddenly bloomed in his eyes. At first, the flame was only the size of a needle tip. However, in an instant it grew rapidly and burned fiercely, as if it was about to burst out of his eyes. "I can burn the heavens with a single glance." As a voice that sounded like a god's murmur reverberated through the world, everyone saw a scene that they would never forget. Two golden pillars of light shot out of Yi Chen's eyes all of a sudden. In an instant, the world was enveloped by golden flames. The flames soared into the sky, blotting out the sun and burning everything. Boom! Under the Patriarch of Han Ming's terrified gaze, the ice age that he had expended countless amounts of frigid true energy to cast was broken on the spot. He suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream before retreating frantically. When he looked again, he saw that his two eyebrows had been burned away. The world suddenly fell into a deathly silence. This scene was too shocking. A human's eyes could emit golden flames? Compared to the Patriarch of Han Ming's, this was a divinity. At that moment, the expressions of the Patriarch of Han Ming, the Crimson Eye Divine Lord, and the heaven-bearing Devil Sect Master, Su Wuyao, and the rest changed completely. They stared at Yi Chen. If one took a closer look, they would notice that there was a flash of fear and killing intent in the depths of their eyes. How did the declining celestial burial planet give birth to such a child? Su Wuya's pupils constricted as he muttered to himself. Could he be the son of Providence born from the celestial burial planet's Providence, or was it carefully arranged by the group of mighty figures on the celestial burial planet? No matter what, we must kill this brat today. Otherwise, he will definitely become a disaster for us in the future. Endless killing intent flashed through his heart as he thought to this point. Then, he looked at the patriarch of Han Ming and the rest one by one. At that moment, the five of them understood each other's gazes, and their expressions turned extremely sinister. Su Wuya took a deep breath in and his gaze turned completely cold. Everyone, let's attack together. We must kill this brat today. Attack! The patriarch of Han Ming and the rest responded sternly when they heard that. Then, they took a step forward at the same time. Monstrous true origin energy erupted and charged at Yi Chen. Attack! We must kill Mad Southern Yi today. At the same time, the dozens of God transformation stage powerhouses standing quietly behind the five of them moved. Terrifying killing intent spread everywhere, covering the sky. The eyes of Qin Shaotian, the patriarch of the North Sea, and the rest turned cold when they saw that. They could not help but want to attack, but they were stopped by Yi Chen's cold voice. All of you can just watch from the sidelines. Today, I'm going to kill in all directions and destroy everything so that these pieces of trash know that I can't be bullied. As soon as he said this, Qin Shaotian and the others were stunned. They thought that they had heard wrongly. Countless onlookers were in disbelief. Not only was Yi Chen going to fight the five perfect stage soul transformation stage powerhouses on his own, but he was also going to fight the remaining dozens of soul transformation stage cultivators by himself? Crazy, I think he's really crazy. Someone's lips trembled. That's right. Those are 5-stage God transformation stage cultivators. Apart from that, there are dozens of God transformation stage powerhouses. Even the last time, Mad Southern Yi barely killed them with the help of a peerless killing formation. Where did this peerless killing formation come from? Many people were in an uproar. They could not believe it. Mad Southern Yi, you're boasting shamelessly. The white-browed, venerable man's roar shook heaven and earth. He took the lead and approached Yi Chen. At the same time, he shouted, "Desolate origin destruction finger!" He curled two of his fingers, and monstrous true origin energy poured into his fingertips, causing them to become vast and deep. As his fingertips trembled, the surrounding space was forcefully torn apart. Swoosh! Immediately after, a green beam of light that was only as thick as a baby's arm shot out from his fingertip. A huge ravine was torn open in the 3,000 meters of space, and a terrifying aura rippled out. There's no need to be in such a hurry even if you want to die. Yi Chen took a step forward. His eyes that were like two bolts of cold lightning pierced through the air. There was terrifying energy brewing in his palm. Subsequently, he pressed his palm down at the white-browed, venerable man. Under everyone's gazes, a gigantic palm print that was hundreds of meters in size swept across the sky and pressed down. Although the palm print was only hundreds of meters in size, the might and pressure it brought was like 10 mountains crashing down. Boom! The white-browed, venerable man's divinity was broken, and he spat a mouthful of blood. Then, he fell heavily, and his face became dispirited. A single palm had severely injured a stage God transformation stage cultivator. Countless people trembled when they saw that. They felt their hearts skip a beat. Mad Southern Yi. They could not help but recall Yi Chen's many accomplishments and myths. Yi Chen was no different from how he was now. The invincible legend is back. Many of the older generation of Chinese powerhouses were extremely excited and cried tears of joy. As the white-browed venerable man was sent flying, the expressions of the patriarch of Cold Hell and the rest changed completely. Clearly, they did not expect Yi Chen to be so terrifying. The people who were the most terrified were the people who followed the 5-stage God transformation stage powerhouses to attack Yi Chen. Even a stage god transformation stage powerhouse was severely injured, let alone them? Damn it, didn't they say that Mad Southern Yi doesn't have much time left? Why is he even more terrifying and ferocious than before? Someone roared to himself, unable to accept all of this. Don't panic. The Crimson Eye Divine Lord suppressed the shock in his heart and shouted, no matter how powerful he is, he's still alone. There are so many of us. Can't we kill him? Is that so? Yi Chen's expression was calm. Instead of retreating, he charged at the Patriarch of Cold Hell and the rest. He charged into the crowd instantly. He attacked indiscriminately. The vast pressure shook the surroundings, causing the depths of everyone's souls to tremble uncontrollably. Mad Southern Yi die. Among the chaotic and violent crowd, 3 late-stage god transformation stage powerhouses were the first to bear the brunt. They charged at Yi Chen with terrifying might. Yi Chen stepped in the air. He ignored all the attacks and looked domineering. He slapped down and killed 3 people directly. Upon seeing this, everyone gasped in unison. He killed 3 stage god transformation stage powerhouses with a single palm strike. Kill. The Crimson Eye Divine Lord let out a long roar. He held a black spear in his hand and charged at Yi Chen like a spinning top. Zap zap, the black spear was surging with boundless formation energy that tore through space, creating a huge chasm in the sky, along with an aura that could destroy the heavens and the earth. End of this chapter. Chapter 1441. Yi Chen's black hair fluttered in the wind. He looked fearless as he slammed his hand down. He used his physical body to resist the fatal attack. Crack! His attack directly shattered the black spear, turning it into fragments that scattered into the sky. Oh no! At the same time, Sir God Crimson Eye spat a mouthful of blood. His heart skipped a beat, and his body moved like lightning as he leaped toward the void behind him. Trying to run after acting cool? Yi Chen's body flashed, and he arrived before Sir God Crimson Eye in a single step. He clenched his fist in the air and slashed as if he had pulled out a peerless saber gleam. Save fellow Crimson Eye! White-browed venerable lord roared maniacally when he saw that. He charged at Yi Chen with the Patriarch of Cold Hell and the rest without caring about anything else. Yi Chen's eyes turned cold. The peerless saber gleam in his hand exploded. Subsequently, it turned into thousands of terrifying saber gleams. In an instant, screams filled the air. More than 10 god transformation stage powerhouses' bodies were shattered by the boundless saber gleams. Even their primordial spirits were not spared. Blurred. The Patriarch of Cold Hell and the rest retreated continuously as they spat blood. Their faces were filled with shock. If they had not retreated in time, they would have been crippled even if they did not die. Hiss, hiss, the peerless saber gleam tore through the air and slashed at Sir God Crimson Eye. At that moment, all the hair on Sir God Crimson Eye's body stood on end. The fear in his heart increased greatly, and he could not help but roar hysterically, "Mad Southern Yi, let's talk this out, blurg!" However, Yi Chen did not give him the chance to beg for mercy. His expression was calm as he activated the peerless saber gleam and slashed at Sir God Crimson Eye's glabella. Whoosh! Blood splattered in the air. Under everyone's gazes, Sir God Crimson Eye was split into 2 by the saber. The primordial spirit in his shunting acupoint was also split into 2. A perfected god transformation stage patriarch died on the spot. Whoosh! In an instant, the world was drowned by shocked voices. It was too terrifying. Yi Chen was too terrifying at that moment. He faced 5 perfected soul formation cultivators and dozens of soul formation grand cultivators all by himself. Not only was he unscathed, but he was also able to kill nearly 20 soul formation grand cultivators and Celestial Lord Crimson Eye, who was a perfected soul formation cultivator. Fellow Taoist Scarlet Eye. Furious roars came from the mouths of Patriarch Cold Underworld and the others. Their eyes were filled with shock, disbelief, and even more astonishment. This old man will not participate in this battle, this old man will not participate. As a crazed voice rang out, a soul formation late-stage cultivator screamed in horror before fleeing into the distance. Seeing this, some people were tempted. Boom. But in the next moment, a huge hand descended from the sky and directly smashed him into meat paste, dying without a complete corpse. Yi Chen retracted his hand slowly and looked at everything in disdain. None of you will live today. Line up and come one by one. The moment that was said, everyone's hearts turned cold, especially those who wanted to leave earlier. They were extremely glad. White-browed Venerable Lord roared with an extremely ferocious expression, "Everyone, since he won't give us a way out, we can only fight with our lives. As long as we drag this on until he's exhausted, he'll die." As soon as he finished speaking, boom, the people spread out immediately and surrounded Yi Chen tightly. They maintained an extremely subtle distance so that they could attack him in time and retreat quickly at the same time. At this moment, everyone had no choice but to fight with their lives on the line. 1. Yi Chen grabbed the air, and the Emperor brush appeared in his hand. He drew a line in the air and drew a heaven and earth cage in the air. What's going on? The space around us has been sealed? Someone yelled with a terrified look on his face. Yi Chen took a step forward and charged over with Emperor brush in his hand. Everyone attacked him immediately. Terrifying true origin energy surged. Su Wuya attacked. The demonic energy on his body was like a flood. It turned into a demonic dragon and charged at Yi Chen with unparalleled killing intent. Destroy! Yi Chen wrote a word in the air with Emperor brush in his hand. Immediately, a divine radiance covered heaven and earth, as if an ancient immortal king had descended to the mortal world. Bang! The black demonic dragon suddenly exploded, turning into demonic energy that filled the sky and scattered in all directions. Ah! Su Wuya screamed. His body was suppressed by the word destroy from the sky. Then, he turned into dust under everyone's gaze, and his soul was completely destroyed. The heavenly devil sect master had died. Another person had died. The patriarch of Han Ming sucked in a breath of cold air and was completely terrified. Mad Southern Yi, are you really going to fight us to the death? Yi Chen said nothing. He took a step forward with Emperor brush in his hand. The air trembled as Emperor brush shone brightly in his hand. It seemed to be extremely eager to kill everything. Die! Yi Chen danced in the air and wrote a big word. Rumble! In an instant the world turned pale. Lightning flashed, a sea of fire spread, and everything was frozen. Everything appeared in this world. The shrill screams made one's scalp go numb. In the end, the scene that entered everyone's eyes made their scalps go numb. Apart from the patriarch of Han Ming and the other two, the dozens of soul formation cultivators that they had brought with them were all dead. Die! Yi Chen did not give them a chance to catch their breath. With a flick of his finger, 2 golden bristles shot out from Emperor brush. Buzz! The 2 golden bristles expanded in the wind like 2 peerless sword gleams, slashing at the white-browed venerable man and 6 desires fairy with incomparable sharpness. No! At that moment, the 2 of them roared in indignation. They activated all the defensive spirit treasures on their bodies, but they were easily cut into 2. It's too terrifying. It's too terrifying. What exactly is that brush in Mad Southern Ye's hand? He can kill a perfected soul formation cultivator with just a brush. The reincarnation of a jinx. This kid is really the reincarnation of a jinx. This time, everyone was completely shocked. In less than half an hour, 4 perfected soul formation cultivators had died in Yi Chen's hands. Apart from that, there were dozens of soul formation powerhouses. When Yi Chen's gaze landed on the patriarch of Han Ming, the latter was completely terrified. He immediately knelt heavily on the ground. He could not care about anything else as he said in fear, "Fellow Yi, spare me, spare me." Boom! Yi Chen took a step forward. Emperor brush whistled through the 9 heavens. divine light kept spitting out as if it was brewing a great terror. Since that's the case, let's die together. Seeing that, the patriarch of Han Ming's expression suddenly became extremely resentful. In an instant, dazzling primordial spirit flames erupted from his shunting acupoint like a divine furnace had exploded. Seeing that Yi Chen was unwilling to let him go, he simply chose to burn his primordial spirit. He wanted to die with Yi Chen. Suppress. Yi Chen waved emperor brush and wrote a word. The patriarch of Han Ming seemed to be frozen in the air, and could not move at all. Those who kill will be killed by others. Yi Chen took one last look at him and slapped the top of his head. The patriarch of the cold nether sect died on the spot. At that moment the entire world fell into dead silence. End of this chapter. Chapter 1442. Blood rained down from the sky above Nine Dragons Bay, and the void trembled. Yi Chen stood proudly in the air. His clothes were not stained with blood, and his black hair fluttered in the wind. His jade-like eyes were extremely calm like a god. At that moment the world was dead silent. At that moment everyone widened their eyes as they stared blankly at the godlike figure. Everything seemed to have stopped. At that moment a gust of wind blew over from nowhere, instantly blowing away the blood that filled the sky. Blood energy surged and swept across a radius of 5 kilometers. Everyone immediately woke up from their stupor. Their bodies trembled as they clenched their teeth, and their eyes were filled with shock. A total of 5 perfection stage soul formation cultivators and dozens of soul formation cultivators were slaughtered by Yi Chen in a domineering manner. Not a single one was left alive. In particular, Patriarch Han Ming and the other 4 cultivators at the peak of the deity transformation stage were renowned on their home planet. They were mighty figures who dominated a region. When the 5 of them joined forces, they would even be able to fight against a void tempering stage cultivator. However, they were all killed by Yi Chen alone. Too powerful. He was simply too powerful. In an instant, an uproar and gasps erupted like a flood breaking through a dam. The atmosphere was pushed to its peak. On the ground, Hall Master North Yun and the rest were extremely excited. The Patriarch of Green Spirit in the crowd cried out involuntarily, "Heavenly Lord Yi is simply too powerful. The facts prove that our choice was right." His words were immediately agreed by the others. After all, most of them had followed Yi Chen from the Purple World. They might have been unwilling before this. However, after seeing Yi Chen fight against the 5 perfection stage soul formation cultivators, that unwillingness immediately disappeared. It was replaced by deep joy and respect. The Patriarch of Hell stared at Yi Chen from afar. His heart was stirred as he mumbled to himself, "Fellow Yi is really terrifying after the transformation. Big Brother is now the #1 person below the void refinement stage." Yi Wushuang's white clothes fluttered as he smiled. Even if he faces a void refinement old monster, he can still fight. The moment that was said, the Patriarch of Hell was even more shocked. After a long time, he could only secretly suck in a breath of cold air and say, "Now, I really believe that fellow Yi is an immortal king. This kid killed 5 perfected soul formation cultivators with just his physical strength. He's not afraid of any spells, divine abilities, or spirit treasures." The divine wills hidden in the void trembled as they communicated with each other. "I'm afraid his physical body has already become a sage. Looks like this kid has inherited the path of the ancient warriors on the celestial burial planet. If we allow him to continue to grow, the position of our top 100 stars will be shaken." Another divine sense muttered incessantly, "It's not just shaken." Someone sneered and said, "It's not an exaggeration to describe it as turbulent. Don't forget the person who walked out of the celestial burial planet 10,000 years ago. That person proved his Tao by force and killed many heaven illuminators. In the end, he fought all the way to the 9 heavens and 10 earths." As soon as these words were spoken, the void fell silent. Countless spiritual wills trembled. This kid is probably no weaker than the void tempering stage now. Perhaps we should change our attitude and choose to befriend him. That's right. It's not worth it to be enemies with such a person. It's better to form a good relationship with him. Perhaps there will be unexpected gains in the future. This kid is worthy of being the son of God of Earth. Since that person 10,000 years ago, there hasn't been another son of God on Earth. Perhaps this kid can repeat the glory of that person 10,000 years ago. In an instant, the divine senses hidden in the void dispersed. Clearly, they did not want to arouse Yi Chen's hostility. At the same time, in a mysterious cave abode thousands of kilometers away from Nine Dragons Bay, a figure in a black and white Taoist robe suddenly opened his eyes. Damn it, I've put in so much effort to set up such a killing trap, but that kid actually turned the tables. The old man's eyes flickered and his expression changed. Even with my deduction technique, I can't see through his secrets. This kid either has great luck or an extraordinary background. It's a pity that the patriarch of Han Ming and the rest failed to live up to expectations. Forget it, forget it. Since this matter failed, I can only hide and find another opportunity. Thinking to this point, the old man immediately stood up and was about to leave. However, at this moment, his body suddenly froze, and then he suddenly looked in the direction of Nine Dragons Bay. He sensed that there was a cold gaze shooting over from thousands of kilometers away, as if it had locked onto his figure. This kid's perception is so strong. Damn it. The old man's expression changed slightly. Without any hesitation, he waved the horsetail whisk in his hand and immediately rode a cloud, fleeing into the void. In the sky above Nine Dragons Bay, Yi Chen looked into the northwest. His gaze shot thousands of kilometers away like lightning surging. Then, he scoffed, "Old bastard, do you think you can escape?" At the next moment, he stretched out his hand, and it seemed to have turned into a majestic mountain ridge that stretched thousands of kilometers into the void. "Get down here for me!" Under everyone's gazes, a shrill scream suddenly came from the depths of the void. "Great sacrifice art break! Your final struggle!" Yi Chen scoffed coldly. His hand covered the sky and the earth, almost crushing the sky. Then, it shook the void. Ah! As a scream rang out, a figure in a sorry state fell heavily from the ground. From afar, it looked like a person covered in blood. Everyone was horrified when they saw this scene. What kind of technique was this? It was just the power of his physical body, yet he suppressed space, ignored distance, and captured everything. Under everyone's gazes, the bloody man on the ground suddenly hammered his chest and spat a mouthful of blood essence. He seemed to be trying to escape with the blood escape technique. "I told you, you can't escape." Yi Chen moved and appeared before him instantly. He extended his hand and captured him easily. "Mad Southern Yi, let go of me." The bloody man gradually revealed an old man in a grayish-white Taoist robe. However, his face was filled with panic. "Do you know who I am?" "I don't care who you are. Since you dared to scheme against me, you'll die today even if you're the king of heaven." Yi Chen's voice was cold. "No, you can't kill me." The old man's expression changed abruptly. Then, he said, "I'm from the Taichu Dojo. If you dare to kill me, the Taichu Dojo will definitely not let you off." As soon as he said that, the silence was immediately broken by waves of voices that sounded like stormy waves. The Taichu Dojo. It was one of the top 5 existences among all the foreign immortal sects that had descended on Earth. It was rumored that there were void refinement old monsters guarding the Taichu Dojo. The most terrifying thing was that the mother planet behind the Taichu Dojo, the Great Dipper Star, was in existence on the top 100 leaderboard. There was an almighty that illuminated the heavens, enjoyed billions of incense offerings, and was worshipped by the heavens. End of this chapter. Chapter 1443. Taichu Dojo. Yi Chen's eyes flickered when he heard that. He felt that it was a little familiar. He then sneered and said, So what if you're from Taichu Dojo? More than one powerhouse from the foreign immortal sects has died in my hands. So what if you're one more? This time, he was already standing against the foreign immortal sections. He had formed a deep grudge with countless immortal sections. One more Taichu Dojo was not a big deal. No. As soon as he finished speaking, countless anxious voices suddenly rang out in the silent world. Then, Qin Xiaotian and Daoist Beiyan walked over. The latter said anxiously, "Fellow Yi, you really can't kill this person. Otherwise, you'll definitely be in great trouble." "That's right, Brother Yi," Qin Xiaotian said with a serious expression. "Taichu Dojo is different from Ethereal Palace and Cold Hell Sect. The former is ranked 5th among all the foreign immortal sections. Not only is their foundation terrifying, but most importantly, many foreign immortal sects have to follow Taichu Dojo's lead." At this point, he could not help but take a deep breath in. Once you kill this person, you'll completely offend Taichu Dojo. Not only was Yi Chen not shocked, but he even smiled nonchalantly as if he was disdainful. Seeing that, Daoist Beiyan's lips moved slightly, and he spat out an explosive piece of news. "Taichu Dojo is suspected to have a void refinement old monster." Yi Chen's eyes flashed imperceptibly as soon as he said that. A gleam flashed through his eyes. Void refinement? Before he could think too much, two figures suddenly flew over from the ground. It was Fang Mingwei and Fang Rui. "Yi Chen, what are you doing?" Fang Mingwei looked at the old man in the Daoist robe in his hand and shouted at Yi Chen immediately, "Let go of Senior Yen Yuan now. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable." His tone was extremely rude, almost commanding. "Grandpa is right." Fang Rui sneered and said, "Yi Chen, Senior Yen Yuan has a high status in Taichu Dojo. If you dare touch a single hair on his head, I guarantee that you'll be doomed eternally." Everyone was opposing Yi Chen. The atmosphere suddenly turned cold. Countless people fixed their eyes on this scene. Someone could not help but laugh. "Looks like Mad Southern Yi is going to compromise. What else can we do other than compromise? Don't forget that it's the Taichu Taoist rite, not some small immortal sect like the Ethereal Palace. Haha, Mad Southern Yi thinks he'll be invincible after this battle. He doesn't know that there are still Taichu Dojo and other powerhouses among the foreign immortal sections." In an instant, countless whispers spread in succession. Some shook their heads, some felt sorry. On the other hand, Taoist Yen Yuan, who was captured by Yi Chen, shouted sharply, "Mad Southern Yi, did you hear that? You can't afford to offend our Taichu Dojo. If you know what's good for you, then let me go immediately. Otherwise, I guarantee that not only will you die, even the people related to you will not be an exception." As soon as he said that, Qin Xiaotian, who knew Yi Chen very well, could not help but close his eyes in despair. It's over. Qin Xiaotian had known Yi Chen for quite some time. Naturally, he knew that Yi Chen was amenable to persuasion but not coercion. The last thing he was afraid of was threats, especially when he could not accept someone threatening him with his family. "He's really courting death." The Patriarch of Hell smiled sinisterly. Taoist Yen Yuan did not seem to notice it at all. The more he spoke, the prouder he became. "Let me go now and kowtow to me to admit your mistake. Perhaps you can save your life." "Is that so?" Yi Chen smiled lightly. His gaze was calm. Then, he raised his hand slowly and poked his dantian gently. Sizzle, sizzle, following the sound of air being deflated, extremely terrifying true energy poured out of Taoist Yen Yuan's body and swept everything. Taoist Yen Yuan's eyes widened, and his gaze was filled with resentment. He seemed to be roaring hysterically, "Why, you crippled me?" He had cultivated at the age of 12 and was now at the mastery stage God transformation stage. He had gone through a lot of hardships to cultivate to this level. However, Yi Chen had crippled him. Thousands of years of cultivation had been destroyed. It was even more painful than killing him. The world suddenly fell into a deathly silence. Everyone's eyes were filled with disbelief. Yi Chen crippled Taoist Yen Yuan's cultivation base, even though he knew that he was from Taichu Dojo? Fang Mingwei pointed at him and stammered, Yi Chen, Yi Chen, you're finished, you're finished. Fang Rui roared. Shut up. Yi Chen glanced at the two of them coldly and said coldly, I'll kill you if you keep talking. The moment that was said, Fang Mingwei and Fang Rui immediately stopped talking. Their bodies trembled violently like sieves. Fellow Yi Yor. Taoist Beiyin closed his eyes, seeming to be in despair and bitterness. Yi Chen said calmly, If anything happens, I'll take responsibility myself. Why you crippled me? Taoist Yen Yuan fell into madness and was extremely resentful. Ah, Yi, I guarantee that you'll definitely die. Your entire family will die. Yi Chen scoffed coldly and pressed his palm on the top of his head. Following the vast divine consciousness, he forcefully performed the soul-searching tactic. Heaven and earth were filled with Taoist Yen Yuan's miserable cries. A moment later, Yi Chen opened his eyes slowly. His calm expression was no longer there. Instead, it was replaced by monstrous, killing intent. Taichu Dojo, you're courting death. Through the soul-searching tactic, he found out that Taoist Yen Yuan had schemed against him because he wanted to kill him. The reason was that a great figure in the Taichu Dojo coveted Su Yuhan's body. Boom! Killing intent filled the air, and the sky trembled. It was as if thousands of troops were roaring, and the sound wave was like the roar of a true dragon. At the next moment, under everyone's gaze, Yi Chen carried the half-dead Taoist Yen Yuan in one hand and took a step forward. He turned into a golden gleam and charged towards the east like a comet. The killing intent that was almost tangible shook heaven and earth. What's he going to do? The people who remained where they were confused. They seemed to be stunned by Yi Chen's sudden action. No one could react in time. Oh no! Only Taoist Beiyin cried out in alarm. He seemed to have thought of something, and his expression changed drastically. Fellow Yi is going to kill his way into the Taichu Dojo. What? He's going to kill his way into the Taichu Dojo? Crazy, I think he's really crazy. Hearing those words, the crowd all cried out involuntarily in shock. Qin Xiaotian could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. He said anxiously, Quick, stop him. We must stop him. That's right, stop him. Taoist Beiyin reacted instantly. His body flashed as he chased after Yi Chen with all his might. He looked extremely anxious. Fellow Yi, don't do anything rash. Otherwise, even China won't be able to protect you. End of this chapter. Chapter 1444. Buzz, buzz, buzz in the void, a figure wrapped in dazzling divine light tore through the void forcefully. He did not hide the pressure on his body as he charged towards the east. The coldness in Yi Chen's eyes grew colder as he headed east. He was fearless if the Taichu Dojo wanted to kill him. However, if they dared to attack his family or even Su Yuhan, they had completely violated his reverse scale. Dragons had reverse scales, and those who touched them would die. His speed was too fast, completely exceeding the sound barrier. In the blink of an eye, he had teleported over 100 kilometers, and the monstrous killing intent and pressure on his body enveloped the ground. At that moment, more than 10 people on the ground along the way opened their eyes and looked into the depths of the void in shock. With their cultivation, they could naturally feel the vast pressure that enveloped the entire world. It was as if a deity had crossed worlds and descended onto Earth. That's... On the ground, in a secret space, an old man suddenly stood up. His eyes were like small suns as he stared fixedly at the sky above his head. He believed that his strength was enough to leap to the top in China and even the world. However, under that pressure, he actually felt a chill down his spine. Judging from his aura, even if this person isn't at the void refinement stage, he's probably not far from it. When did China have such a ferocious person? The old man's eyes flashed, and then he seemed to have thought of something. Could it be him, Mad Southern Yi? Suddenly, his expression changed. No, this kid is going to the Taichu dojo? Oh no. As soon as that thought appeared, the old man's expression changed drastically. Then, he took a step forward and hid in the void. An angry voice sounded in the void. Bastard, how dare you provoke the Taichu dojo? Are you trying to bring disaster to China? Fellow Shui, fellow Long En, wake up quickly! In an instant, countless terrifying auras woke up from their slumber from all over China. They were all shocked by Yi Chen's actions. At the same time, in Nine Dragons Bay, when Yi Chen carried the half-dead Taoist master Yen Yuan and headed east, the world exploded when Taoist Beiyan said that Yi Chen was going to kill his way into the Taichu dojo. Is mad Southern Yi crazy? Not only did he cripple Taoist Yen Yuan from the Taichu Taoist rite, but now he wants to shake the Taichu Taoist rite all by himself? Things have gotten out of hand. How are we going to deal with this? Countless people were shocked by Yi Chen's actions. They started discussing with shocked expressions. Not only them, even Fang Mingwei and his grandson, who had just regained their senses, were stunned. Their eyes were wide open, and they couldn't believe what they were seeing. A moment later, Fang Mingwei took a deep breath in and said in disbelief, Yi Chen is going to the Taichu dojo? The Fang family was attached to the Taichu Taoist rite, and it was also because of the Taichu Taoist rite that they became a powerful family in the capital. Naturally, they knew how terrifying the Taichu Taoist rite was. That was why he was so shocked. He's dead meat. Fang Rui's expression was extremely cold and seemed to be filled with resentment. Does he really think he can provoke the Taichu Taoist rite just because he killed 5 cultivators at the great perfection stage of the soul formation realm? He's dead for sure. No one can save him this time. In an instant, the news spread throughout China and even the entire world, causing an unprecedented uproar. At the Su family's residence, the current head of the Su family, Su Baishan, stood up in shock. He looked at the person below in shock. What did you say? Mad Southern Yi wants to deal with the Taichu dojo? Yes, master. Moreover, Mad Southern Yi and Senior Yen Yuan from the Taichu dojo were crippled. The person below recounted everything that had happened without missing a single word. Boom. Su Baishan's entire body shook violently, and then he said coldly, Quickly notify the other great families. We must stop Mad Southern Yi. Otherwise, we'll have to bear the wrath of the Taichu dojo. In just the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the 8 great families of the capital were all shaken. Then, countless figures with powerful auras flew into the sky. Mad Southern Yi must be mad. Damn Mad Southern Yi, we won't stop you if you want to court death, but if you touch the Taichu dojo, not to mention you, even we will be in trouble. Bastard, he's simply a bastard. Mount Tai had been known as the head of the 5 mountains since ancient times. It was the #1 mountain in the world, and it had an extremely strong mythological flavor. It was because countless emperors had set up altars there to hold sacrificial ceremonies and ceremonies. It was because it was rumored that Mount Tai was the closest to immortals. In many folklore, Mount Tai was the incarnation of the great emperor of Eastern Mountain, and the great emperor of Eastern Mountain was the sacred messenger who communicated between heaven and earth. He had the important function of controlling life and death. However, as the foreign immortal sects invaded, all the famous mountains in China were occupied. Even Mount Tai, the #1 mountain in the world, was no exception. The one who occupied Mount Tai was the Taichu dojo. At that moment, there were more than 10 figures with terrifying auras standing in the void less than 100 kilometers away from Mount Tai. They were like more than 10 gods with unparalleled might. One of them, a freckled old man with a hunched back, had a deep gaze as he shook the space and said, Fellow Huang Long, are you sure Mad Southern Yi really wants to kill his way into the Taichu dojo? The one called Huang Long was an old Taoist priest in a yellow Taoist robe with a lifelike real dragon embroidered on it. As soon as that was said, The rest of the people subconsciously looked at Taoist priest Huang Long, their eyes filled with doubt. They were all ancient existences that were sleeping in the various secret families and forces in China. They would not easily appear in the world, but now they were forced to wake up because of the Taichu Dojo. Taoist priest Huang Long's gaze turned grim. Then, he sucked in a breath of cold air and said, "I dare to guarantee with my life that there's no mistake in this matter. That's why I rashly woke everyone up." "Looks like it's true." A silver-haired old woman coughed a few times. Her turbid eyes were extremely deep. "No matter what, we must stop Mad Southern Yi. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable." "That's right." Someone nodded slightly. His aura shook the void. "How transcendent is the Taichu Dojo? Even if we use all our strength, we won't be able to shake it, let alone Mad Southern Yi. How dare this brat act so recklessly?" Seeing that everyone was talking one after another, Taoist priest Huang Long frowned slightly and said, "What if Mad Southern Yi doesn't listen to our advice?" "Of course." The silver-haired old woman smirked coldly. Her gaze was terrifying. "If he refuses a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then don't blame us." As soon as that was said, the others looked at each other and smiled. There were 13 perfected soul formation cultivators here today. How could they not be able to deal with a junior? Just as Taoist priest Huang Long was about to speak, he heard a terrifying air-piercing sound coming from the sky. At that moment, everyone looked in the direction of the sound. Chapter 1445. Under everyone's gazes, a golden rainbow shot over from the sky. It was as if it was shining with immortal light. Eventually, the golden rainbow turned into a tall figure. His figure was crystalline like jade, and there was light lingering around him. His immortal body was elegant, as if he was a supreme god walking in the world. "Is this Mad Southern Yi?" As expected of a rising star. "His aura is extraordinary, and he looks like an immortal." At that moment, Taoist Master Huang Long and the rest looked at each other at the same time. They saw surprise and amazement in each other's eyes. While they were sizing Yi Chen up, Yi Chen looked at them quietly. Eventually, Taoist Master Huang Long coughed and took a step forward. He clasped his fists at Yi Chen from afar. "I'm sure you're the Chinese paragon, Mad Southern Yi, right?" Yi Chen frowned slightly and glanced at them coldly. An undetectable gleam flashed in his eyes. "Who are you guys?" There were a total of 13 perfect stage god transformation cultivators. He did not expect China to have so many hidden powerhouses. However, they looked unfamiliar, so he guessed that they were not from the same group as Taoist Master Beiyan. "I'm the patriarch of the Chu family in Chuzhou, Taoist Master Huang Long." Taoist Master Huang Long said with a smile. "The fellow Taoists behind me are also ancient figures from various wealthy families and forces in China." Before he could finish, he was interrupted by a hunchbacked old man behind him. "Little friend Yi, let me ask you, is the person in your hand from the Taichu Dojo?" Yi Chen looked at him quietly. "That's right." The hunchbacked old man's eyes turned slightly cold as he said, "Are you going to the Taichu Dojo this time?" Yi Chen's frown deepened. "So what if I am?" "Nothing." The hunchbacked old man smirked coldly and said rudely, "You can't enter the Taichu Dojo today, and you have to hand fellow Yen Yuan to us." Yi Chen suddenly laughed. "Who do you think you are?" "You." The hunchbacked old man's face turned grim. Clearly, he did not expect Yi Chen to be so hot-tempered. He would turn hostile just because of a disagreement. "Don't be rash." Taoist Master Huang Long tried to ease the tension between them. He then looked at Yi Chen calmly. "Little friend Yi, you really can't enter the Taichu Dojo this time. To be honest, the terror of the Taichu Dojo is beyond your imagination." "So what?" Yi Chen's expression remained the same as he said coldly, "This is my personal matter. What does it have to do with you guys?" "Of course it's related." The silver-haired old woman beside Taoist Huang Long could not help but say coldly, "If you provoke the Taichu Dojo, there will be immeasurable consequences. At that time, China will definitely suffer the wrath of the Taichu Dojo, and we will be no exception. Mad Southern Yi, you're a smart person. Of course, you know that you can't affect China and us because of your matter. When he spoke up to this point, he paused for a moment before he continued. If you hand fellow Yen Yuan over to us right now, and we'll speak on your behalf to the Taichu Taoist right, then perhaps this matter can be turned around. Otherwise what? Yi Chen chuckled softly as if he was mocking. What a bunch of hypocritical and selfish old men. What does your life and death have to do with me? The way you kneel and lick the boots of the enemies from the outer realms is truly disgusting. The moment that was said, the hunchbacked old man's gaze turned completely grim. His expression was terrifyingly grim. Yi Chen glanced at them in disdain and ignored them. He took a step forward and was about to charge towards Mount Tai in the distance. Boom! As a terrifying pressure swept out, the silver-haired old woman blocked his way. Her gaze was sinister as she said, "Junior Yi, do you really have to go to the Taichu Dojo?" Old man. Yi Chen's expression gradually turned cold as he said with a terrifying gaze, "On account that we're both Chinese, scram within 3 breaths. Otherwise I'll kill you first." All right. The silver-haired old woman was furious when she heard that. She said, "All right 3 times in a row, Junior, since you don't know how to appreciate favors, I'll teach you how to behave today. Everyone, let's do it." The coldness in the hunchbacked old man's eyes intensified. "Let's work together to capture him and hand him over to the Taichu Dojo." "Do it." The silver-haired old woman let out a shrill scream. Her silver hair suddenly expanded, and it charged at Yi Chen like the Milky Way. "You guys are courting death." Yi Chen's gaze turned cold. Subsequently, he extended his hand and clenched it at the silver-haired old woman. He broke her spell instantly. Oh no! The silver-haired old woman's expression changed drastically. She retreated without saying a word. However, Yi Chen was faster than her. He captured her with his hand directly. "Let go of Serpent Grandmother." The hunchbacked old man and the rest unleashed a monstrous pressure when they saw that. They pressed down on Yi Chen at the same time, and their killing intent tore the sky apart. At the same time, deep shock surged within them. One had to know that Serpent Grandmother was a perfect stage god transformation stage cultivator after all. However, Yi Chen captured her so easily. "Do you think I'm ting?" Yi Chen glared coldly at the silver-haired old lady whose face was filled with fear. At the next moment, he exerted force with his arm. Bang! An explosion sounded in the air. Then, the silver-haired old woman's body exploded, turning into a pungent mist of blood. Even her primordial spirit did not survive. Dead silence. The world suddenly fell into dead silence. Taoist Master Huang Long and the rest froze as they watched the scene in shock. Waves of shock surged in their eyes. A perfect stage god transformation stage cultivator was killed just like that? "Since you guys want to stop me, die." Before everyone could react, Yi Chen took a step forward and charged at Taoist Master Huang Long and the rest. "How dare you!" The hunchbacked old man and the rest of the 12 people attacked in anger. In less than 10 minutes, there were many severed limbs and pieces of flesh on the scene. Only a dispirited primordial spirit broke through the void and fled frantically. Yi Chen acted as if he did not see it. His gaze was fixed on the peak of Mount Tai in the distance. He said with killing intent, "Taichu Dojo, I'd like to see where you guys got the courage to target my woman." Meanwhile, the outside world had been paying attention to Yi Chen, especially because of the argument about Yi Chen going to Taichu Dojo. "Do you guys think Mad Southern Yi really went to Taichu Dojo? I think it's a little risky. If he's smart, he must know that Taichu Dojo can't be provoked. With so many people witnessing it, it shouldn't be fake. I'm more worried about whether Mad Southern Yi can successfully break through Taichu Dojo's protective formation." After all, that's the Taichu origin sealing formation. It's said that it was personally set up by a void refinement old monster. Everyone discussed among themselves. None of them thought highly of Yi Chen. At that moment, someone on the internet suddenly revealed a piece of shocking news. Hee, I'm afraid you guys don't know yet. There are already more than 10 perfect stage god transformation old monsters blocking mad Southern Yi at the peak of Mount Tai. That person added with a cold smile, under the joint efforts of these old monsters, not only will mad Southern Yi not be able to go to Taichu Dojo, he might even be suppressed. End of this chapter. Chapter 1446. As soon as this news came out, it set off a huge wave. What? There are more than 10 perfected soul formation cultivators blocking mad Southern Yi at the foot of Mount Tai? When someone heard that, he was shocked and said without hesitation, impossible. When did so many powerhouses appear in China? There's nothing impossible about it. The most glorious era of our country was thousands or even tens of thousands of years ago. During that period of time, there were people who went into hibernation. It's normal for them to live until now. If there are really more than 10 perfected soul formation cultivators intercepting mad Southern Yi at the foot of Mount Tai, I'm afraid mad Southern Yi's trip will be a failure. Tiannan, Forest City, 9 Dragons Bay. Yi Wushuang and the Patriarch of Hell stood above 9 Dragons Bay. Their divine consciousness spread out, so they naturally sensed the discussions of countless people. 12 perfected soul formation cultivators. Patriarch Yellow Spring's eyes flashed as he murmured, the sudden appearance of so many powerhouses means that Earth's secret has officially been revealed. After he finished speaking, he couldn't help but turn his head to look at the young man in white beside him and said with a smile, Fellow Taoist, Yi is in deep danger. Aren't you going to take a look? I don't need it. Yi Wushuang's white clothes fluttered while his eyes were as vast as the stars. What I have to do is to protect the house for you. As for those old things, they can't stop you. After saying that, he immediately sat down cross-legged to comprehend the sword heart, and an invisible sword essence rose from his body like a flood. Damn it, so many experts appear from time to time. Upon seeing this, the Patriarch of Hell Spring could not help but mutter to himself, looks like I can't neglect my cultivation. Otherwise, I'll be left further and further behind by fellow Yi. The more chaotic the earth is, the more it means that a great opportunity will be born. The general trend must be fought, the general trend must be fought. Just as everyone was immersed in endless discussions, another explosive piece of news broke out. What a shock! 13 great perfection soul transformation stage cultivators tried to stop mad Southern Yi at the foot of Mount Tai, but Yi Chen killed 12 of them. Only the primordial spirit of a powerhouse called Taoist priest Huang Long managed to escape. In an instant, everyone was stunned. Killing 12 perfected soul formation cultivators in a row? How is this possible? Why is this kid getting stronger as he fights? Did he hide his strength, or did we underestimate him? It's too terrifying. It's too terrifying. Now, I believe that mad Southern Yi really has the strength to shake the Taichu Dojo. When the news spread out, the entire world was even more shocked, and all the forces fell into deathly silence. Even the immortal sects of the other worlds were no exception. At the summit of Mount Tai, all types of resplendent light surged from the ground. Symbols surged, emitting a boundless aura. This was a heaven-shocking great formation, and with Mount Tai as the foundation, it drew upon the power of heaven and earth to guard this place. Within the formation, karmic luck soared into the sky. It was as if celestial light filled the air, and clouds and mist coiled around it. From afar, one could faintly see a huge group of palaces erected in the void. Solemn, grand, majestic inside the mountain gate, which was surrounded by a formation, there were 2 disciples guarding the gate, looking around in boredom. The cultivation of the 2 disciples was not high, only at the great perfection of the nascent soul realm. Even so, it was still enough to show the heritage of the Taichu Taoist rite. After all, in the outside world, a person at the great perfection of the nascent soul realm would be able to become the leader of a second-tier clan. One of them yawned and said sleepily, "By the way, why isn't Mad Southern Yi here yet? Who knows?" The other person took out a wine jug from his waist, took a sip, and said with a cold smile, "Perhaps he doesn't dare to come after knowing the heritage of the Taichu Taoist rite." "That's true." The person from before chuckled in agreement. "If I were Mad Southern Yi, I wouldn't dare to come either. Although I'll lose face, it's better than losing my life, right? I hope he comes." The latter wiped his mouth and seemed to be disdainful. Mad Southern Yi dares to look down on the Taichu Taoist rite just because he killed many powerhouses from the foreign immortal sections. He should bear all the consequences. Before he could finish speaking, he suddenly realized that there was an earth-shattering sound coming from the sky. It was as if thousands of troops were roaring. In the eyes of the two of them, a golden divine shadow swept over from the sky, like a comet crashing into earth. Subsequently, a thunderous voice that shook the world sounded, "Mad Southern Yi from China is here to challenge the sect. People of the Taichu Taoist rite, come out and accept your death." Rumble, in an instant the void shook and the world shook. It was as if thousands of bolts of lightning had exploded in the sky at the same time. Blurred. The two disciples who were already in a daze spat blood. Then, one of them shouted, "Oh no, Mad Southern Yi is really here. Quick, inform the Grand Elder." All right. The other person fell heavily to the ground and ran into the sect while rolling and crawling. His expression was extremely terrified. The disciples who stayed behind looked at the figure standing in the air with pale faces. They were staring at them like the god of death was staring at them, and their hearts trembled. "He's here, Mad Southern Yi is really here." They were mocking Yi Chen for not daring to come earlier, but they did not expect him to arrive in the next second. Even though there was the mountain guarding formation suppressing it, Yi Chen's voice still passed through the formation. It was extremely loud and shook the minds of everyone in the entire Taichu Taoist rite. "Mad Southern Yi from China is here to challenge the sect. People of the Taichu Taoist rite, come out and accept your death." Under such might, some people with low cultivation bases in the Taichu Taoist rite fainted on the spot. Many powerhouses who were cultivating in closed-door cultivation even vomited blood and almost went berserk. "What? Mad Southern Yi is really here? Challenge the sect? What arrogance! This brat is truly lawless. We must kill him here so that the outside world will know that the dignity of the Taichu Taoist rite cannot be offended." In an instant, the entire Taichu Taoist rite was in an uproar. In an instant, terrifying killing intent swept out, causing the space to tremble. Boom, boom, boom. At that moment, countless pillars of light suddenly erupted from the Taichu Taoist rite and shot towards the sect gate. In the end, terrifying figures were revealed. These people stood within the formation. Their auras were oppressive, and their murderous auras were awe-inspiring. They were as dignified as a prison. They wore treasured armor that surged with treasure auras, and they held spirit treasures with terrifying auras in their hands. They were like heavenly soldiers and generals. Buzz. At the same time, the space there distorted, and then three figures with auras that crushed everything descended. All three figures wore golden battle suits, and their entire bodies were enveloped in golden divine radiance. They were like eternal, pulsing sacred flames, making it impossible to see their true faces clearly. The leading figure was covered in multicolored light. He looked down at Yi Chen. His eyes were flickering, and there were galaxies in them. He was extremely terrifying. "Mad Southern Yi, how dare you offend the Taichu Taoist rite?" End of this chapter.